Welcome to the Independent Characters, episode 182. This is Carl.
This is Justin.
This is Jody.
And Jody, thank you for joining us. As you know, Adon is not here today.
He's not?
He's off teaching.
Oh,
so
weird twist.
Couldn't make it tonight. Jody has stepped in. I think you're actually going to be hearing more and more of from Jody as we continue, because we love having you on.
Always fun.
I think you're a fantastic addition to the cast, and I'd love for you to continue to come back on a much more regular basis. So
thanks, guys.
That invitation will always be open to you, sir. This episode, we are going to be talking about Champions of 40K, Heroes of the Imperium. This is a new series idea that I came up with, where we're each going to go kind of round robin style, picking two picks of heroes that we like in the lore and literature and game table for Warhammer 40,000. And this time we're addressing Heroes of the Imperium. Next time we may look at Xenos or Chaos heroes, quote-unquote heroes, anti-heroes.
Oh, they're
villains.
heroes.
Depends on your point of view.
Definitely
Which
heroes.
I talked about later.
There you go. Give up. I have the high ground. One word of retraction right now. Justin's second choice, I mistakenly say rules for this choice are in the current edition codex for that army. They are not. And so my mistake, and I just want to track that now so that people who are listening to it tell me I'm wrong later before they finish listening to the show. I figured I'd just get that out of the way up front.
Right.
Holy space and time anomaly.
That's what happens.
That's
what happens
situations.
when you're, yes.
It's hard to keep track of this stuff.
As you will hear. So we hope you enjoy the show. I'm very interested in the feedback that you provide to us. And
And you can tell us how much stuff we got wrong.
Or how much we got right. Or tell us what your thoughts are.
Yeah.
On
a certain character, I think that's going to bring up a lot of...
We'll see.
A lot of communication.
Feelings.
We'll see.
Feelings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You guys have anything you want to throw out there before we kick it off?
No, let's do this.
I think we kind of talk all of it in the hobby progress section.
We do. And then other than that, just enjoy the ride and definitely check out... I know we got a commercial for them, but CK Studios, come paint with us.
Yep.
Check out our dates. Go to the website. Go to Facebook. We're coming to cities near you.
And we have a commercial with them too. But also check out Table War, who were incredibly generous with their donations to the fire victims in Butte County. So thank you very much to all of them.
Amazing products, which I want to buy them all.
They really do. So, Jody, you have one more thing to add?
Yeah, hey, community members, we're going to be watching a little more closely. If you got something cool to share, do it.
Yeah,
We
expect
can't wait to see.
a post in the Facebook group in the next day or so after this releases about an idea we have and how we're going to kind of draw some of that into the show. I think it's a great idea.
Help inspire us.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. So I think that's it. I think we just launch right into the show right now. So we hope you enjoy it. Let us know what you think, and we will talk to you soon. Wargamma.com, where you can get resin terrain, craters, lakes, lava pools, and objectives. Figure bases for all types of models. Character models including Battle Wolf war mounts and spawn seeds. Linked barricades. Choose from one of 6 designs to suit the origins of your army. From Star Pharaoh, Spawn Hive, Mechanoid, Dark Ancients, Dredelian Noble, and Chromag Scrapyard. Linked barricade sets include 12 large shields, which are 2 inches wide, and 4 connecting walls. Cover nearly a 30-inch line. Sets also include a matching multi-gun turret. Wargamma.com. Alternative battle miniatures. All right, so as usual, let's kick it off with a little bit of hobby progress.
Let's.
Justin, let's start with you this time. What have you been up to?
Quite a bit of activity on my front. It's funny because I felt like I didn't do much, but looking at the show notes, I'm like, not too bad since the last time we recorded. So got another video up on the community page, which was fun. This was one that Dan had previously done.
Yeah.
But due to he works for Games Workshop, so I was like, hey,
you can't really,
it might not be good for, you know what I mean, the dropper bottle thing. So I was like, let me post one. But initially Dan gave me...
Have you thought of making your own YouTube page or something? I think you should, because that way like those videos are easier to find for people.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. If you need help with that, let me know and I can help you out.
That I will be doing so.
Yep.
Yeah. Because there's gonna be a lot more of those things coming.
Yeah, that's exciting. I think they're really cool.
Yeah, it's
really
fun.
Cool.
It's super fun, and the Facebook Live thing especially because people can kind of interact with
Yeah.
you. If that video calls for that, right? I mean, it's nice being able to interact.
Yeah, that's kind of the nice thing. And we're working on some stuff here too. So
Absolutely, yeah. But that was fun. So I transferred 50 Games Workshop paints over.
wow.
And it took a while,
Did
but
you film all 50?
no.
I was gonna say
No.
That's a little repetitive.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna do blue. Colin, are you watching?
Right. No, that would have been painful. I just did one.
Yeah, I think that's all it's needed.
And but before filming that, I had transferred like 20 or something. So I picked up all these little kind of random things like how to hold the paints and get the last little remnants out and yada yada. So got a little practice in.
Yeah, honestly, that inspired me to do it. I want to get rid of all these and transfer them.
It felt good, man.
Yeah.
It felt good. And I got 50 more that just arrived today, the
Nice.
day of the recording. So
Are you getting those through Amazon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you do the label swap too? The peel and restick? Or?
Dude, it takes like no time at all. It peels.
Really?
It peels right off the paint
I saw a lot of people
and
doing that.
right back on. It takes no time at all.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Now P3 labels, which
Different.
I have like
They're
100
paper,
of,
aren't
they do not come off. So I'm gonna have to get my labeler from work and just make some custom ones. But yeah, super cool.
How does that sound again? Okay, got it.
And you got to use the finger, the spirit fingers.
Right.
Good for radio. But that was really cool, and it's just going to make me more efficient. It's also allowed me to. It's been a while since I've actually gone through my paints and seen which ones are just absolutely like
Ruined.
nope, in the garbage. So it's given me that opportunity to kind of go through a little quality control, if you will. But that was fun. And then I also painted 10 Plague Bearers on the Facebook community page.
That was
as
really
well.
cool.
Yeah, that was neat.
To show how it took like an hour and a half to do 10 of them.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, literally. And you can always go back and do more work on them, but they are absolutely ready for the tabletop.
Yep.
You know, hour and a half, 10, good to go. And that was really fun. People seem to dig it.
Bless those inks.
Bless the airbrush, bless the inks, bless Nurgle.
Now, would you
So
go
many
back
blessings.
to anything with a brush, a regular brush on those guys?
Oh, I already did. I did, yeah.
So, I mean, there are parts of it that you will, like maybe the teeth or something along those lines.
Yeah, so what I did was brush-wise, I did most of the blades.
Yeah.
With the brush, did a couple layers of dry brushing, and then I picked out like some of the prominent like little zits and stuff with like
that makes
like
sense.
a beige paint. Edged the bases black.
Right. Oh, right.
Little grass on there and
Cool.
boom, done. Well, done for now.
Done.
We'll always go back to those someday.
Let's say they're done.
We'll say they're done.
They're just
So I'm
plague
up
bearers.
they're just plague bearers. So I'm now up to
no just
40,
about plague bearers.
40 painted.
Oh boy.
So the thin green line is getting thicker.
That's why I shook my head. They're just plague bearers. Shut up.
No, my point being like, there's no point in going back to them, right?
Yeah, right. But it'll be two thin lines before long.
Okay.
Joy.
And then on the topic of artist inks, I played a game that we'll get into in games played with my Cabalite Dark Eldar stuff, and I had 10 scourges that I went back on to hit their wings with some artist inks to add some purples and some umbers and stuff into those flesh tones.
Yeah.
And it just makes them look bruised and sore and
Nice.
awesome. And then I got 5 more scourges.
So that took 10 minutes. I mean, it's so easy.
It's so easy. It's kind of
an exaggeration, but
criminal.
Yeah, but it is pretty easy. Like there was points where I was doing terrain, and I kind of don't want to post this one because I literally just posted an earlier one, and it's like that took me 15 minutes to paint this piece of terrain.
flooding the community. On the topic of those scourges, though, I've been experimenting since the last CK class with that Daler Rowney dark green artist ink, and it's. The label is like misleading. It's like very much a dark teal, and this color on Eldar stuff. So my scourges had like that real Prussian dark blue, kind of like the rest of my Dark Eldar, but it was actually highlighted up a little more, and I shot this real thin down carefully over that Prussian blue, and it just turned it into like this perfect, almost like the Cabal, the Black Heart, like that sea green.
Okay.
Oh, it looks so good to the point where I was like, oh man, I almost want to go back on like all my Dark Eldar and hit them with this dark green.
Oh, it's
a slippery slope.
That was.
I think I'm going to keep them. I'm going to keep them with the sea green because they're like mercenaries. So I want them to kind of be like similar color scheme, but I want them to kind of stand out just a little bit, so they look a little different on the tabletop.
Just like that, but different.
Just like that, but different. Similar, but different. What else? So I basically had to take a little break from the Nurgle stuff. I was feeling the funk just a little bit, so definitely took a detour back to the Dark Eldar and got the Scourges worked on. I also got a lot of work done on my custom converted Archon, which I posted a picture of him on the community page as well. And he's coming along, and I'm really spending a lot of time on him, picking out all the little details and edges and whatnot. And what else? Got a lot of random stuff.
Striking Scorpion.
In preparation for an all-craft world on-foot army, I painted up 8 Striking Scorpions and Karandros,
Wow.
the Phoenix Lord. Just got them, like 3 colors, tabletop, just so I could play them. I hate playing with unpainted models. I'd rather have them 3 colors, and they just look a million times better on the tabletop, and it works. I got a lot more work done on my CK Secret Santa Demon Prince.
Now, Christmas is over.
Yeah,
Say it.
The deadline is like 2 weeks, so the pressure's on.
Got it.
But I put about maybe 2-3 hours into them.
Okay.
And it's been a lot of fun painting like Slaaneshi stuff. It's been a while, and it's just fun to go back on projects you haven't really done.
Yeah.
And just
Same.
but with all the stuff you've learned since
Yes.
then, and it's like num. And last but not least, I'm almost done assembling 6 Harlequin Skyweaver jet bikes.
I would say those are the jet bikes, right?
They're the jet bikes.
Okay.
So I'm jumping into the Harlequins here soon because they're really good when you have to kill Imperial Knights.
Interesting.
Because apparently having like 6 Talos on the field with Haywire isn't enough. I need more Haywire. I will kill an Imperial Knight one day. A big knight. And I'm not talking the Armigers.
No,
a big
some-
knight. They just don't die every time I play against them, and I want to kill one.
There you go.
And that's me.
That's your hobby goal.
That's my hobby goal.
Kill a
a
knight.
knight dead.
Is paint some Harlequins, and I actually ordered some stencils as well from Fallout Hobbies.
Right.
So I'll be doing the diamond patterns
Nice.
and all that. And
Nice.
so
Are you going to do a fade within the diamonds? Is that the plan? Is because I know you can do a thing where you do like
You can
a
do all
fade
kinds
from
of things.
one, and then you put the stencil over the top, and then do yet a whole nother fade.
yes,
Yes, you're doing all the things.
all those things.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it because I've had the Harlequin army sitting there forever, and I'm looking forward to it.
I think anybody who enjoys painting has looked at Harlequins at some point and been like, I could just. And for me, it's always the like, I'm looking at you, Kill Team. It's that I just don't want to do a whole army because, wow, that's a lot. But I mean, I don't know if there's a more rewarding project to dive into painting wise. I mean, the 1 or 2 I've dabbled with here and there, just like those models,
Yeah.
as ornate as they are, still are just like, you can do anything.
I love seeing
Literally.
what people do, especially with the, patterns on the jet bikes and that kind of thing. It looks really striking. To me, it looks daunting. Like it just looks like not fun for me.
And I think that's true for a lot of people
The
as well.
diamond pattern really is. It's tricky to do. I've done it on a handful of them, and there's no way around it. I mean, it just takes time.
Yep.
It's nice that like if you go for that quarterly kind of thing where you just have to do like 1 thigh and 1 shoulder,
Right.
Yeah.
in the diamond pattern, that makes it a little more palatable,
Yeah,
I guess,
yeah.
as opposed
Yeah, I
to
could
like
see
I'm going
that.
to cover this whole model in Motley. But yeah, I agree with you. They're fantastic models, and they do allow you, especially if you're doing a kill team, to almost take them one by one
Exactly.
and take a break from the whole assembly line, or you at least assembly line them up and get the block coloring down,
Right.
And then just you take one at a time and you paint all that motley. Take your time with it.
Kill Team's kind of great for that on everything.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and
every
even
level.
if you go back to the OG box set of Harlequins, they don't look alike. Like, I mean, and I think that's maybe the best thing about them is
The Skittles Harleys.
Yeah. Well, you can't do them wrong. Like, oh, what, that guy's too bright? No,
Right.
that guy's got too many designs on him. Well, no, that's fine. No, this guy's too
I
blended.
mean, in the new
It's
lore,
fine.
they definitely made them, I think, a bit more like kind
Uniform.
of uniform and
Yeah.
more specific. But there's nothing stopping you from doing the Skittles. Yeah.
Especially for Kill Team. Oh, stop. I don't
Yeah,
we
sorry.
let's change the subject because
That's what we do on the show.
Jody, what you been working on?
Yeah, not Harlequins. I did, and I'm gonna proxy in for Adon here. Adon and I had similar progress, even though he's not with us. Miss you,
I mean,
buddy.
he's still with us, but
Oh yeah,
not with
sorry.
us.
Phrasing.
He's not that old.
Adon and I both did, and he can talk about his when he gets here. We did a swap meet sell off, so I did some sorting and collecting. And
This was
organizing.
at
Game Castle up in
Game
Mountain View.
Castle.
Yeah,
Nice.
And I inherited a buddy of mine's stuff. He was paring back, not getting out, but paring back That went really well. As it turns out, so letting me go to Adepticon for kind of free. So excited
stoked.
about that.
Wow.
Yeah. Let me see. Let's get to actual hobby, though, because that's just moving boxes around. I picked up a Creature Caster Demon Prince. That's my first Creature Caster model. It's a gorgeous model. I like that one in particular aesthetically is
Which
more
one
in
is
line
it?
with GW.
The Pincher?
It's the one that the Pincher Demon. Yeah, he looks like a Keeper of Secrets.
Yeah, okay.
Like an old school kind of when he was more of a bull.
Yeah, a little
Like
more
the bull
bovine,
head. Yep.
big crab claws, dragging a sword behind him. Beautiful model, a little more in line with the GW aesthetic.
You had some issues with the flash, though, right?
Did from now the feedback I've got before I go on a minor bash session here is that apparently was during the Kickstarter when they were mass producing, they were having some of those issues, and it's not typical. Yeah, the mold lines, and not even flash, but like just mold misalignment, where I was really having to do some scraping and a little bit of contouring to hide. Now, the mold lines, to Creature Caster's credit, are placed in such a way that where the mold lines are is safe. Like you're not, it's not down the middle of the guy's face.
Right. Which would be a nightmare.
Right. So they're in spots that it's relatively safe to work with, but they were pretty pronounced. I was a little surprised to see.
I'm going to have to go back and look at mine because I've assembled a few and I don't recall having that issue.
And the feedback I got online was both that that's not typical, and that if you reach out to them, they're usually pretty quick to respond. I felt comfortable enough in my modeling skills that I could clean them up. I'd rather spend
from the
an hour or
pictures
two.
you posted, it didn't look like anything was truly shifted where it was like unusable. It was just more like real fine, like a slight shift, but not unusable.
Right. It not a lateral shift instead of a linear shift, so to speak. If and for those of you who know what I'm talking about, good. And those of you who don't, I'm sorry. All right. All right. So got that assembled and underway and based, and looking forward to having a proper sized greater demon in my Slaneshi forces.
They are big. They are very big.
Yeah. That was the key, was that it's the right scale.
But still 8 wounds. Or no, greater demon's bigger.
Oh, yeah. No, there's plenty of wounds to go around. Built the Speed Freaks block. It's currently very much at work in progress status, but nevertheless, it's built and underway and excited.
How are those kits?
Multi-parted, but in a good way. Compared to the Creature Caster, that was quite a change. Like the Creature Caster, this giant demon's in like 5 parts, and then the Speed Freak buggies are in 40 bajillion. Yeah. But really thoughtful.
Highly detailed.
Yeah, they're highly detailed, really thoughtful. I'm really looking forward to painting the flux capacitor inside the the warp buggy thingy. I've given up, like, even my inner orc is like, I'm just going to stop naming things. There's the buggy thing and the other buggy and the one that
it gets hard to keep
like,
up.
Like it's fine. Yeah, no, they're great models actually. And they go together for as ornate as they are. They go together really, really well. Mine are largely in sub-assemblies. They wouldn't have to be. I just find it easier to work that way.
Right.
But yeah, it was super, super easy. Even in comparison to, say, a truck, I found these more detailed and easier to assemble.
Interesting.
So more time.
Yeah.
Let me see what else we got going here. The Realm of Chaos box. I picked up the Wrath and Ruin box.
Right.
Is that right? Anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah. And man, what a great package. It's got rules for AOS. It's got rules for 40K. It's got
demons.
Yeah, you brought that up, and
it
it was surprising. Like, I hadn't considered it when I looked at it, but this truly is the only box they've produced that goes with both systems.
Right, and they give you starter rules for both systems,
right,
and tokens, and a little mini campaign for both systems.
That is pretty.
So
that's cool. I didn't know it had.
Cool
I didn't know it had
crossover.
chits in there.
Yeah,
that's good to know.
For some sick reason, that put me over the edge. I was like, I don't know.
Hey, we love
tokens.
We love our chits. Yeah.
And I've built the Fiends, who are substantially larger than the old Fiends.
I want them so bad.
Set some time aside. They're in a lot of parts.
Yeah.
There are
I'll take it.
many pieces.
I'll take it.
A little customization, though. You can do some arm and head swapping and some modification.
Is it true? I believe it was a Don that mentioned that they had you could put plates over the breastises to cover them up.
Not so.
Okay.
No.
I thought that was.
They're on display as Slanesh would have them.
Okay.
I did the Enraptress, the Flesh Harp gal.
Yes.
They are currently in mid paint on the desk right now, and I picked up a second one through an online eBay
just
or
that
whatever.
model.
Just that model. They're not only rules wise are they great, but just horrific and awful and wonderful.
Are you going to convert one up quite a bit, or just a head swap, or
no? Just have two.
You gotta do something.
Different paint schemes. One's going to have like a black latex skirt, and yeah,
head swap.
you'll be able to tell them apart. Dude, that she's got that magical flowing ponytail
I know.
thing. So you're probably right, though. I just didn't think about it.
Fair enough.
Let me see.
Also, why mess with perfection?
There it is.
Ooh.
How Slanesh. Had that one in his pocket. Phrasing. Anyway, so part of my, like, I've been on a hobby bender since the holidays, partly because I get the holidays
Wait,
off.
before you move on
Yeah.
from that,
Yeah.
because you and I talked about this box set a little bit, and you had some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, theories around some of these models in the box set, and I'd
Yeah.
like you to share those.
Okay, so the Fiends of Slanesh and the Infernal and Rapturous, that's the harp gal thing. They're the new Slanesh models, and we haven't seen anything Slanesh in a long time since the kind of very unfortunate lawnmower chariots.
She's just taking a nap. She'll be back.
I'm sure. These models to me felt like early CAD design. They didn't feel as elegant, especially in going from the Speed Freaks box
Right.
to this Slanesh stuff. They felt like they were kind of overly chopped. Like nowadays, it really makes sense why and how and where they're dividing models up. And for some reason, it just felt like these felt like models from like 4 or 5 years ago. Beautiful models, but just not, the sprues didn't feel as dense to me. And I mean, I am just totally theorizing here, but I feel like these models may have been sitting in the design studio for a little while, waiting for an opportunity to come to light, as it were.
It's not
I don't know though, because they invest so much money into those molds.
So the other thing I noticed is the new flesh hounds are less. The new flesh hounds from a design aesthetic that are in this box are more in common with the old metal flesh hounds than they are with the new stuff we've seen from Age of Sigmar and Shadespire. The new Shadespire flesh hounds are very lean on their back end. Their backs are relatively clean. The ones in the Wrath and Ruin box are, again, they've got those armor plates kind of up on their shoulders and these huge crests down their back, and they're busier. They're not as lean as they're bigger, but they're still kind of chunky. And just it was actually the flesh hounds that made me start looking at it, is just the way they're designed feels very much in the design aesthetic of what was going on when the Blood Crushers came out. And so it, and certainly there's a precedent historically of Chaos models waiting for the right time to launch. I mean, the Plastic Demon Prince kit, I don't know what the deal was, but we also, I think, know that it sat around in the war
about a year
for quite a while. That it was showing up in the background of pictures, and there was no mention of it. And then the kit came out.
Interesting.
It's quite possible. I mean, because as they moved to 8th edition, Slanesh took that back seat for a while. Still,
that could have been what it was.
It's just. I just thought it was an interesting theory, and
the aesthetics and the way the models were cut just felt.
And we've
not
seen the
as
way
up to date.
these models are advancing and the way they're doing. It's quite possible. I wonder.
Yeah, and I
just thought that was an interesting.
But then,
theory.
of course, we saw the Noise Marine come out, so it feels like we're going to see a return here shortly. And
I hope so.
God, I can't wait. But
yeah,
interesting.
Speaking of a return, you mentioned, Justin, in your progress of going backwards to doing some like revisiting a project. So
My palette cleansers.
Your palette cleansers. I went back and revisited with the new Slanesh models. I went and took a peek at what I did have painted up for my Slanesh Demon Force. And I realized I had a strange collection of 18 of the Juan Diaz famous demonettes.
Interesting.
And I went 18. Well, that's not a very productive number anymore. It's 3 times 6 for those who don't know.
Right.
So it was six squads of demonettes for those who are up on their demon numerology. But now it needs to be 30, which is also 5 times 6, which is totally acceptable. So I got those done, and it was really fun to go back. And it was shocking because when I originally did those for the very first Hobby Progress Challenge, I painted them all by hand. And going back and having the airbrush just to do the beginning purples and then hit the claws. And then it was like, a wash, a couple highlights.
And then you get to all those chain links and belly button piercings. And
There's Eldar players.
Very detailed.
I feel you. There is no quick way to paint that many gems.
All the gems. Yeah. Did you pin the arms?
I inherited a number of these. So
pin them well.
We'll see. Yeah, fine pinning jobs there.
Oh, it's fun.
So yeah, I went back and revisited that, and then, like I said, the Infernal and Rapturouses are underway.
Cool.
I got totally commission free and clear, which was wonderful. I occasionally do some commission work that shows up on the Blood of Kittens blog network.
Right.
And I'd been working through some Cromlech kits that, unfortunately, I got them the week after I went back to school. So it had been a very slow process to get through those. But once those were gone, it was super nice to just kind of be able to hobby on any level I wanted to. Added another skull cannon and 10 more bloodletters and a winged corn demon prince. Those all got built and painted.
Nice.
And then I am starting to build my very own demon/grimdark table.
Yeah, it's looking really good.
Thanks, man.
This is impressive. So talk a little bit about this. And we will put up pictures in the, I'll put pictures up on the Facebook page, not the Facebook group, so people listening who are maybe not part of that group can see these pictures. So go ahead.
Yeah, the good news is what you're looking at is not difficult. There are a fair number of products in the background that go to making it not difficult. So get the right tools for the right job kind of situation. I was really inspired by Luke Apps or Luke APS, Luke's Affordable Paint
Luke's
Service.
Apps. Yep.
Yeah, on YouTube. He's a YouTuber and otherwise, and does a great job. He's a guy over in the UK, does a great job. And he had a video about the one product that changed my life, hills in 30 minutes. And he shows you live, he makes a neat looking hill.
That's funny that was the video that inspired
30
it.
minutes.
Yeah, I've seen that video. Yeah.
And the product he's working with that was for him and was now for me a real game changer in doing like natural hill shapes, or even as my next project is forming in my mind some rubble, is this stuff called Sculptamold, which is apparently for scale modelers like train modelers, like choo-choo. So the train groups, when they do their dioramas and their big scenes for their trains to cut through, this is old news to them. And effectively what Sculptamold is best I can tell, is it's paper mache and plaster mixed. You get it and it's this bit powdery. It is real messy. It gets powder everywhere. Do it outside.
Most terrain work tends to be pretty.
Yeah, this one
pretty sloppy.
I did the first test piece in my garage and then looked around and was like, "Oop, nope, not doing that again," because there's white plaster speckles all over the place. It's great.
Jeez.
So backyard, waited for a sunny weekend. Anyway, it's the Sculptamold stuff. It's plaster Paris, paper mache. You put it in water. It ends up about like cottage cheese. And then you make a rough shape you want with rocks, or not with rocks, with styrofoam.
Yep.
And I mean really rough. You don't need any sort of sculpting tools or wire cutters, or just kind of stack them up how you want. And then you just pack this stuff on in between the gaps, and it dries really hard. It dries really pretty quickly to a workable point.
Yeah.
Now, I did a massive piece. When you look at it, it's a hill big enough for...
You can hide a Lord
greater...
of Change's wings behind it.
Yeah, like a Lord of Change can stand
It's almost
behind
it's almost Bloodthirster sized, I would say. It's how convenient.
Yeah. On top, there's a lovely dais on top to receive greater demons. Or whatever huge awesome sacrifice needs to be made up there. And so the other pieces that go into this, so that's the basics, is Sculptamold over some foam, and it dries nice and firm and gets a good shape very quickly. A couple years ago, I picked up at Grocery Outlet. It's a super discount shopping chain here in the US. And for $3, I got a bag of fist-sized skulls. 6 or 7 of them in a bag.
Nice.
So at 50 cents a skull, I was like, yes, I'll take them. And they're actually nice looking. They don't look derpy. They look skull-like. Cleaned them up a little bit, took a little carving and cleaning. So I was embedding those into these hills I was making. Now, the last piece that I think really puts the thing over the top is Woodland Scenics rock face casts. And they're, again, another Woodland Scenics. Typically, those kits go with, model railroad folks.
Yeah.
Dude, I've got that same mold that I think I bought when I was like 12.
Well, it's funny because as you were looking at, you're like, hey, these look like the Woodland Scenics rocks, and you're like, yeah, it is.
But it's perfect. Yeah, you just do a little plaster mold on it.
Yep.
And
I went to a buddy of mine in Santa Cruz, actually had the molds and loaned them to me for however long I need them. And then he recommended there's something called like Durham rock putty, and you can get it at Home Depot, and it's just a casting. It's a casting plaster. It's not incredibly durable, but it's durable
it's not like dental
enough.
Plaster, but it's
not nearly as hard as dental plaster. It's more like traditional plaster. Dental plaster, which Carl apparently
super hard,
is
expensive though. Yeah.
It is pricey, but you get a lot out of a bag of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. It's more so, I think, with dental plaster, my hesitation had been just biting the bullet that I would buy. Sorry,
The show's going to be full of this, I think.
that I'd buy a big bag of it because you buy it in bulk. You don't get like, here's my 10-ounce bag of dental plaster.
No, the funny thing about that too is originally I learned about that through her starts castle molds, which is fantastic. Right. And it was funny because he would put a phone number there. He said, "Oh, you can call this dental supply company. They will tell them this is what you want." And I called them to order my bag of it. And I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for this dentalist." "Oh, are you making castle molds for that?" Like they knew.
Wow.
Like they were apparently getting a lot of business from him. So
yeah, that resource is still, I don't know if the phone number is still good, but the resource is still there online. So if you have questions about different casting materials for doing these kind of bricks or rocks or rock faces, if you want to give this a shot, the Hearst Arts website is really user-friendly and a ton of great information that's easy to dive into. So great resource there if you're getting into this.
Very cool.
But basically, I went and sat in the backyard. I took an old hill that I'd built that looked like, I think people call them the stacked cake hills or whatever it is. It's just the stacks of them. It was kind of like that. It was a little more effort had been, a little more nuance had been put on it, but I just wasn't happy with it. So I literally took a hammer to the old hill and dug out holes to stick skulls in, got the hot glue gun, hot glued them in, hot glued on some of these rock faces and spackled in with the not spackle, this Sculptamold stuff.
Yeah.
And the longest part was reshaping the hill I'd originally built. If I had just started with foam and not tried to save an old piece of terrain and repurpose it, it would have cut the time in half.
Yeah.
The first test piece I did, which if you look in the photos, there's a one that's fully painted, and it's a stack of 3 skulls. That legitimately, and this was me like learning the products, took me maybe an hour.
That's incredible.
Not to paint, but to build.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah. So really, really does go very, very fast. So I'd really recommend checking out that resource on the video if you want to see more about this. This Luke Apps guy does a great job of explaining.
Fantastic.
He's got some really helpful stuff. Yeah.
Great.
And he's all about making it easy for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. He's a super, super good resource. So totally.
Good old YouTube. Gotta love it.
Yeah, so that was the Skull Hills. I'm in the process of building these up, and I've got ideas.
You have to do like some kind of blood fountain or blood waterfall or blood river or just something with
it's
bloody,
all 4 gods, man.
I know.
It's the terrain they fight over.
So you could do okay. So here's what you can do: have your generic pieces. I got it all figured out for you.
Yeah, I know. Tell me what I need to do.
So you have your generic skull rocky things, right? And then for each of the gods, you do one sweet like centerpiece terrain piece 4. So if
they'll match all your armies. He's got a point.
So no, I know. I'm angry because he's so right.
just one piece for each of the 4 gods.
I have none of your logic here. This is the realm of chaos. At the swap meet, the one thing I did manage to score that was super sweet, that kind of would be a really easy way to start that particular project.
See how this works?
Painfully. You and your Harlequins and your hills. GW years ago put out a Chaos Shrine that had skulls on the side.
Yes.
Spike pillars. I picked up 2 of those for very reasonably. Those are discontinued. So
nice.
I mean, and talk about a piece of ready-built piece of terrain that's perfect for where I'm going.
I remember like back in the day at Games Day LA, there was this one table that it was like a Nurgle themed table, and it was the Games Day style table. So they built it all the way up with foam and carved into it. And he had like puking baby faces.
Oh, I remember that.
Baby doll faces in the rock walls, just spouting out. Oh, it looked so creepy. Yeah. You should do that.
I'll hit up the dollar store for baby dolls next time. Doll faces.
Gonna get on a watch list.
Yikes. Anyway, so that's me. That's what I've been doing. All things chaos all the time.
Cool, man.
Well,
Carl, how about you, bud?
Yeah, I've been
Mr. Terrain Manufactorum.
Focus on terrain painting. I finished up my Aquila Strong Point, which I found in the garage as well, finally, and that came out really well. One of the interesting things is many people call it the compensator gun, the Eagle compensator,
or America, one of the 2. Yep.
It was the first time I used the Games Workshop airbrush gold, which
Liberator or Retributor,
one of those. Yeah. And I sprayed it onto the Big Eagle guy, and it took multiple coats of it, first off, and it was over black. So that kind of makes sense. It's gold over black.
Right.
Took more coats, and as it settled in, I wasn't too happy with it as a color. I was was like, wow, this is really flat.
It's more silvery, like a silvery gold, right?
Yeah, it was really flat for a gold. And then as soon as I did the burnt umber for shading on it from the Dalarani inks,
Added a little depth and shadow.
oh my god! As soon as I did that, I was like, "Oh, yep, it's perfect."
There you go.
It looks fantastic.
Really does.
So
it's amazing what contrast does to really just make something pop.
Yeah, it made that piece for me. I finished painting that up. I did little glow effects on the lights and stuff, which I've gotten good at. And this time around doing those, what I used was I just started with like ultramarine blue. I started spraying in that. Then I just kept using the white ink, and I'd add a little more and a little more. And then finally, when it was light enough, I just did pure white on it just for a little dot, and they look fantastic.
Yeah.
So super easy. Like I'll never go back to doing anything without that white ink again.
It's life-changing. Honestly, I don't even
so
know if I'm
handy.
ever going to even use white paint again. I've been brush painting with that white artist ink like crazy, and
I also painted up 3 knights for Adeptus Titanicus, of which I do a split red and white scheme on it. I just use the ink on that. It works so good.
At
So good.
some point, I'm going to have to dabble. I haven't yet.
I even tried to do the red in the red ink. That did not quite work as well. It was a little too
pink. It turned it pink, right?
Yeah, it was a little too pink. It wasn't what I was kind of expecting. And
You have the Dalarani crimson? The
yeah, I
crimson
think
red?
that was the one.
Work it over like purple or even green.
Yeah. Anyway, I ended up just going to actual red that I knew, but that white worked amazing. So, I'm in love with the white. I'll get to that one last. So, painted up the 3 knights for Adeptus Titanicus, trying to get ready because we have a Adeptus Titanicus day coming February 2nd or something like that, and not March 2nd. And so I got to get my Warlord painted up for that event too.
Sweet.
And this is us just trying to figure out, am I going to invest more in this game after this?
Good idea.
I assembled an AdMech kill team. You're going
Dark Mechanicus, right?
Dark Mechanicus on this, or Dark Mechanicum, if you will. But yeah, so I'm going to put little bits from different Chaos stuff I have and whatnot onto it. I'm not in a big hurry to get this one done. I was just kind of had the models sitting there, and I kind of had this percolating in the back of my mind. And I'm only going to buy 1 kit. So I have the starter kit from the starter box for Kill Team. Lars is giving me his side of that as well. So I can do 1 set of scouts, 1 set of, I don't remember what the other guys are called, and then there's like the Dust Walker kit, Dust Rider kits, whatever they're called. I'm going to buy 1 set of that so I can have a few of those guys and a few of the other alternative. And that's all the units that basically AdMech get.
Well, you did see that they're dropping a new AdMech Kill Team box. They
I
just
don't
announced
want
it
to buy
today.
that. I don't want to buy that. I'm not really interested in like investing into this. And I already had the commander guy. That was what really kicked me off. I had him sitting around. I was like, he's a neat looking model, and boy, he's a lot bigger than the AdMech guys. Like I didn't realize how tiny they are.
They're humans.
I'm not used to that. Right, this is the first kind of army like that. But man, the models are really cool.
They're cool. Yeah.
They've grown on me.
Have you thought about what color scheme you're going to do? Just kind of keep it simple, black, darks.
Bouncing, it's going to be darks. I'm bouncing between like greens to blacks, and then I started looking at some of the fantasy line for like their undead and stuff and what they were doing there, and I saw some interesting color choices there too.
Interesting.
So kind of bouncing around. Then I've seen other examples of people who've done Dark Mechanicum stuff. So.
Oh, okay. Use the internet for your research
I haven't
for sure.
quite settled. I know they're going to be dark because obviously dark.
Cool.
Okay, completed my Wall of Martyrs trench set as well. Boy, that's a grind.
Yeah, that's
Not a fun paint job.
No,
I mean,
all the corpses and
it's
skulls.
but it's the model suffers in many of those areas, and it just in the end you're just trying to go for some kind of abstract looking thing. So you took a look at it, Jody, and you were like, yeah, you should mute down these golds on it a bit. So I'm going to go back and do that at some point, but right now I'm not in a hurry.
I think your idea to do the kind of like they did on there is about the almost like a
Dusting.
dust effect along that bottom edge. I think that helps add, and just like Justin was saying a little bit ago, like it just needs contrast. It's interesting that for a model that's so angular, it sure does look flat when you're done with it.
Yeah.
At the swap meet, one of the things I inherited was an absurdly large amount of that terrain, and somebody picked it up for a very reasonable price. And it was one of those, like, I was really torn on whether I wanted to see it go or not. And then when you were talking to Brian
About painting it.
I was like, nope, glad it's gone.
Yeah,
Glad I did
not
inherit
the
that.
most fun I've had painting terrain, but it's done-ish. I mean, it's effectively done. It's painted. There's some things I want to do maybe to make it look a little better, but for the time being, it's done, and I can put it on the table, and we can play with it, and great. So I did that. So then I bought Urban Conquest, which $100 box set. I'm a little disappointed with this product. Like it's not a huge miss, but it's not a big hit.
You weren't super thrilled with it, right?
Yeah. So what you get in it is obviously you get the plastic mat that you can slide cards into. You get the rule book. The rule book is a very small section of lore and story around it.
And it's not hardback, right? It's just a little
it's
like a pamphlet.
It's a softback.
Yeah.
Okay.
Square bound softback.
Okay.
The center of it is the rules for the campaign system, which is a very small part, and then the back half is basically a reprint of the Cities of Death rules from Chapter Approved. So okay, there's that. Then they throw in some scatter terrain, which is cool, but okay, and it is cool. Don't get me wrong; like that terrain looks cool.
Well, they just knew you had painted all your terrain, that you needed
They
a
just
few
wanted
more
to give me
pieces.
some more.
Yeah.
And I mean, the campaign system isn't as broad as I thought it would be, but it still looks kind of fun.
They tried to kind of keep it simple, stupid in a way. Just kind of here's a more simple
it's
campaign
cool in
for
that
you.
sense, but it just feels that the system doesn't feel terribly durable. There's these stickers you put on to, okay, I've now conquered this area, and then you remove the stickers and put them back on the sheet.
Yeah,
if you lose
it's
that
called
area,
magnets,
which is not particularly durable
Yeah.
as a solution. You and I were talking about taking the mat and putting it on
one of those magnetic whiteboards.
right, and then transferring those stickers to magnets.
Yep.
That's the solution.
That's what we
I think.
always did with our campaigns at Games Workshop.
For
it
sure.
just works the best. Yeah.
In the end, the terrain thrown into it feels like an add-on, so that it boosted the price of the box up to $100. Like we were looking at it the day I opened it, and we're like, the box is nice,
Right?
But I didn't really. So, will I get use out of it? I hope so. Like I want to play through the campaign. That said, the campaign really runs up to 4 players.
Right.
Our campaigns tend to be a little bigger than that, but maybe a small campaign is maybe we could actually finish one. For one.
Hey.
4 lucky dudes.
Yeah, I think you could probably break it into teams, so you could do like 8 people.
Or I mean,
Sure.
each team you could have up to 4 teams, and each team could have any number of people. In theory, so.
Correct. So I mean, I think it's expandable that way. But yeah, I mean, boy, if it had been $150, I would have been really disappointed.
Yeah.
At $100, I'm not going to return it,
Right.
and I'm going to get some use out of it. But it's not at the top of my list for wins for GW this year.
Yeah, just kind of something that we mentioned really quickly is, and it may be that we're at a place in your place here in the Astronomicon that you allow us a space to go kind of bigger than that with what we might want to do with a campaign. The notion of the fold-up mat being something you could take back and forth to a store.
Yeah.
If you have a regular game night or a regular club night.
Yeah.
And you want, that is always a logistics issue if you want to do a map campaign about where do we put the map, how do we store the map.
Yep.
Just be
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So I think if it's targeted at that, maybe a little more successful. I think even back in when I used to help organize events with G3, for those who've listened for a while, that still would have been kind of underwhelming. We were doing pretty big events, but I think it's more
but
for
you raise
a small
good point.
group.
Like that's kind of more the target thing. And the fact, like I watched the unboxing video on GW's stream, and the fact that you can fold the thing up once it's all populated with the cards and stuff and take it with you really does speak to its availability. I just think for our group, it's maybe not right.
Yeah.
I think that's probably,
right.
and at that price point,
Needs to be.
I think.
What do you think the terrain
like
sold separately probably would have been like a $30-$40 kit? So even then, at the end, you're
probably $50 for that kit.
$50, yeah. So $50 for the
Yeah.
I tell you what, that drop terrain though for Kill Team, which is totally the opposite direction,
Super good though.
super. Yeah, like I was like, man,
I'm not disappointed in that terrain. I mean, let me be clear. Like the terrain looks cool,
but it's mostly
just,
kind of scatter and drop terrain. It's not.
It's really
you're not
just
designing
for
a
design.
table.
Yeah. So again, your mileage may vary, but I think $100 was a little steep on price point. 75, would have felt a little more right. But I don't. It feels like the sum of the parts in it are not the whole.
Right.
So we'll see how it goes. I went out to Warhammer World. Before that, Adon was at that swap meet posted a picture of somebody had 3 boxes of Mighty Empires tiles. I said, get me one of those. So I got that for like $10, which is great. I already have like 2 of those plus another blank 40K one plus a painted 40K one. Eventually, I want to do something with those tiles. Like for a campaign, like in a map system, like that is a great system.
It's the bee's knees.
Yeah, and so
deluxe.
We got to figure something out with that. Maybe I'll use some of your
And
guys' help with that.
right in the middle, we get to make a spaceport tile. Just saying.
I have multiple spaceport tiles.
There you go.
There are multiple
If
spaceport
only
tiles.
somebody would build a space.
Yeah, well,
Adon's
is
on it.
apparently
There it
all
is.
over it. Yeah. Adon's buying a spaceport table.
That is. Now.
Okay, so here was what took a lot of time. Adon, Steve Noya, and myself, and thank you guys for your help, drove up to Heroes Corner, which is a small game store up north near where the fires took place, and delivered all of the donations to the recipients of those donations over the course of several hours there. And I have to tell you what a pleasure it was for me to get to do so. We had huge boxes. You saw the pictures of the boxes, huge boxes full of stuff that all of you guys had donated, books, models, games, books for codexes, books for, Black Library stuff, models for each of these people's armies that they had kind of set out in advance. I was able to, as I mentioned last episode, exchange things so I could balance stuff out. Yeah. We took everything up there, and people would show up at the store. They all knew we were arriving. We were, messaged. Some people were showing up earlier and later. When we got there, guys were there. They helped us unload everything out of the cars. It was pouring rain into the store, and I have to thank the owner of the store, who, it's not a huge store, but he made it available for us to use, and he was even running a charity tournament after that. So we had a window.
Yeah.
We filled that store's tables with these boxes with the donations from Table War, who gave us like 16 full Table War cases to give out.
Yeah.
With the Crystal Fortress stuff, with Table War mats, like all that stuff.
How stoked was everybody?
When guys came in to collect the stuff, we would be like, okay, what's your name? And they'd give us a name. We go, okay, here's your box. And we'd hand them this huge box. They'd like, all this? I'm like, right. Now, pick one of these cases over here. This is also yours.
But wait, there's more.
Plus this crystal cat. Here's a mat. Awesome. A couple guys were like, I don't have enough room in my car to take all this stuff.
Wow.
I might have to get help or come back or whatever. A couple guys I could see were getting like emotional. Like they were, their wives were there to help, with stuff. It was clearly appreciated, what everybody had donated. So, thank you all the listeners and people who donated to this cause.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You
Super cool.
Really made these people very happy. And like I said, it's not one of those situations where we're replacing a house or something. Like we can't do that. But these people
it shows
have that
how
kind
caring
of stuff.
the community really is.
Yeah, and this was something fun that these people got to take part in, and boy, and then the best part, not even the best part, but on the icing on the cake is I hand them all this stuff, and then I say, okay, have you heard about the Games Workshop thing? And they're like, what? Games Workshop is going to send you a 2,000 point army, and the heavy metal team or members of the painting community of Games Workshop are going to paint your HQ model for you and send it over to you. And they were just floored by the generosity of everybody in Games Workshop. And so then, we gave all that stuff out over the course of several hours, Adon and Steve and myself. And really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Really awesome.
I can think of when you're going through tough times or down, a little escape goes a long way. And if this hobby is good for nothing, it is providing escape.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
To those who donated and Carl and you guys, that I can think of no more appropriate means of helping unless you can give somebody a house, which seems unlikely, then what a great way to help those folks out. And I know they sure are appreciative.
Yeah. And so we're seeing pictures today of armies arriving from Games Workshop. And mind you, they're boxes, like they're not assembled.
Got something to do.
The HQs are assembled. They haven't arrived yet. They will be. But yeah, boy, these guys, they're stunned at how all these boxes are arriving.
I can't wait to see the HQs that they got painted up for them. Definitely post pictures on the community page.
So you could
please.
see some of those. So interestingly enough, I was going to Belfast for work the day after this. Now, Belfast to Nottingham is a 100-pound round trip flight on Flybe, which is a little local airline there. Games Workshop knew I was going to be in the UK and said, hey, we know you're going to be in the UK. Any chance you can come by and join our live stream? And I said, well, I'm here for work. They were talking about like Tuesday, and I'm sitting there calculating in my head, well, if it's late enough, I could fly over and then fly back the next morning before work and come into work. And they said, well, we'll move it to Friday for you if you can make it Friday. Because I said, I'll be out there Friday, though. Mm-hmm. So it was really cool. I got to go out to Games Workshop. I got to spend some time talking with members of the development team. But then I got to go back into the studio where they film with Duncan and Peachy and all those guys, and all the painters had shown up, and they sat in one table laughing and joking and started painting up the models. And I got to talk to all these guys and interview them on the live cast I was there for 3.5 hours. They wanted me to be there the 5 hours, but I had dinner plans that night, so I had to bail out after 3.5 hours. But that's a long time to be talking anyway. But the amount of progress they made in that short period of time blew my mind. I mean,
it's like they're professionals.
Yeah, almost like they do this for a living. And some of the quality that they were painting these things at too, was incredible. So, I mean, the whole thing from the point of inception to the point of people donating everything to delivering it to what Games Workshop did to what Table War did. Just awesome. Yeah. Just awesome. And so I'm very happy that I got to be a part of that. And that was very cool for me to get to be a part of. So while I was there, all that leads me to, while I was at Warhammer World, I just bought a book from Warhammer World.
And I bought a book.
They actually have, so at Warhammer World, they often have exclusive items that you can only buy there. There's like one display of them. And there's like a exclusive knight head you can get for knights and that kind of thing. But all I ended up buying was a Warhammer World book about all of the
displays and the
displays
vignettes
there and how they built them and stuff.
Man.
And I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, those things are.
And then I picked up stuff for other people. That was it. But it was great. That. Jason Mullins came up and hung out with me for a day and a half, and so we had a great time. It was a great time. Then I flew back and finally got to sleep.
And then I slept.
It's a long plane ride.
So, I mean, when you factor all that in, I'm going to claim all that under hobby progress because that was a whole lot of work, but really rewarding work.
Noble hobby progress.
Indeed. Nah, it was the least we could do. So, hobby goals and promises for me, I'm continue working on terrain. I am trying, Q1 is my terrain quarter. I am trying to get every piece of terrain I currently have painted by the end of Q1. And maybe even start building after seeing the hills and stuff that you've done, start building those hills. We actually have a dumpster coming to my house next week. And so we're starting to clean out our garage. And I've already told Shell I want a workbench out there so I can do that kind of work that's super messy that I don't want to do in this room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so my plan is just to start building terrain out there.
Garages are good for that.
They're going to have to change STC to standard tunnel construction at this point.
And then I also want to figure out, like I posted pictures of this huge bridge I have, this huge train bridge as well that I want to use for Apocalypse that can go between tables. And I need to figure out how to build ramps up to the bridge because it doesn't sit flush with anything.
Foam core.
Yeah, I think foam core is the answer there.
Yeah.
So I'll build some of those.
Sweet.
That's me. What about you, Justin?
So I'm going to be finishing up that custom Archon because he is super close to being pretty awesome. He's kind of awesome, and I want him to be really awesome. So I'm going to finish him up.
This is for you. This guy is yours.
This is just for me.
Yeah.
Actually, I should say first thing I'm going to finish is that Demon Prince because the deadline is now. So he probably needs like another 2 to 5 hours, I would say. Kind of a weird number, but we'll go 2 to 5. So I'll finish him up, and then I definitely want to get those Skyweavers to tabletop. I'm just kind of taking a little hiatus from the Nurgle. Kind of got Nurgled out, and I want to get those Skyweavers painted because I really have been wanting to paint Harlequins forever.
Awesome.
I want to use them on the board and blow a night up.
To tabletop. That's going to be weird because like normally like your tabletop is.
And when I say tabletop, it's like just playable.
Yeah, but tabletop. diamonds is gonna be.
I'm getting the stencils, dude.
That's true. I want to see
Getting
what
the
you do with
stencils,
those.
and I paint fast.
Jody?
I wanted to ask Justin real quick. The Archon, is that a little bit of one of your goals for the year was like a competition? Is this not that that's a competition piece by it, but is it a little bit of a flex that direction?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm inspired on some level. I'm not doing the competition thing. We had a weird conversation.
We
about
really
that.
did, yeah. That's right.
We bonded. It was beautiful.
Yeah. I told you were crazy, I think, at some point. But
Yeah,
because you're too talented and you should.
You just don't get me, man. No, but it's funny enough. I'd literally gotten a Fabius Bile like the day before you posted that, and I was like, the old Fabius Bile.
Yeah.
But it's very similar in concept to the Archon, and it was wanting to play with texture and do a little paint flexing and some things that I hadn't done recently.
Yeah.
Like things I haven't tried in a while. And I was like, oh, and then when I saw Justin doing that, I'm like, oh, that's right. And I noticed a couple little things you were doing with some color modulation in
Yes.
the flesh and things that if you're going to do a competition piece, you got to go that direction.
So I should say too, under Hobby Progress, kind of a side tangent. I have been like really digesting this book. It's called Figopedia.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just taking it like one page at a time and really just soaking it like a sponge. And just like I'm up to like page maybe 20, 25 around there. And just the way he describes like light modulation on your model, I've really tried to incorporate that into the Archon, which is maybe what you're talking about, how the deepest recesses are almost black and it almost goes up to like white on the very final edges.
Right.
And really trying to, like on that model, trying to force the light from coming from one angle, like it's kind of coming from his left shoulder down, and really trying to paint with light on that model because it's the first time I've ever done that on a 28 mil figure. I've always kind of had that kind of, I think, contrasty kind of style.
But this is from one angle.
From one angle.
Right.
And really like stressing it, like, is there really going to be kind of any light? And then my brain started moving, and I'm like, man, it'd be cool if I shot some different filters on his back to make it look like he's emerging from a webway portal.
Yeah.
I'm like,
using light to
man.
set the scene and forge the narrative.
Yes.
Don't roll your eyes.
Absolutely. So, total side tangent, but definitely for people that are looking to kind of up your game, check out this book, Figopedia. We could post it in the show notes. It's by Jeremy Bonamont.
Yep. I've got it right
Tabul.
here. Yep.
Super cool book, and if you really take your time with it, don't just flip through it, like digest it page by page. It will make you a better painter.
Figopedia 1. I don't know if there's a 2 yet, but this clearly he's trying to do a series because this one is light and color theory and practice.
Right.
So, I'll post a picture of it and link to it up on the show notes. And I think Kat and Caleb are actually selling this as well.
They are. Yep.
Yeah, it's a tremendous resource.
All right.
But competition painting, don't give up, Jody. Don't give up that.
It's not giving up. It's
All right.
evolving.
So let's go through games played real quick. We're running a little long in the hobby progress section as usual.
Yep.
That's okay. It's one of our
That's what we
most
do.
popular sections. So, so I got to play Kill Team versus Jason Mullins at Warhammer World.
Nice.
We played on this table that had been built a while ago, which is these various pipes and underground
I saw
kind
those
of
pictures.
facility. Yeah, it's really, really fun. As we played, I wished we had thought about it to play with the advanced rules for Kill Team where things are getting shot off of things because guys would have fallen down crevices and all this stuff. It would have been amazing. When we started, that table is very big. And when we started, we realized we're too far apart. So we said, okay, first round, just move. That's all you can do. So everybody's running to different positions in the first round. And then we picked it up from there. And it was fun. And running across various chasms and stuff on pipes, Jason had blue tack with him so that we could keep the guys on the pipes because they would have fallen off. So it was a super fun game. And it's always fun to play at Warhammer World. And Jason said, let's go play because I was falling asleep because I was just so tired by this point. I was only sleeping like 4 hours a day.
Jet lag for the win.
Then you, Jody, and myself and Josh played Kill Team 3-player Kill Team. We said, 3-player Kill Team is great. There's no man in the middle.
Yeah, you did
Unless
say
it's
that.
Carl. But to be fair, I didn't feel like picked on. Like I just took the brunt trying to stop you from doing what you were doing.
Right.
And Josh just said, well, I'm just going to run around this other side while you do that then. But that was a really fun game.
Yeah, that was super good.
That was your first time playing Kill Team more than 2-player, right?
That was my first fatal 3-way death match of Kill Team. And I was surprised.
That was my first 3-person game of Kill Team as well.
Or multiplayer.
I'd played 4, yeah.
I was surprised how kill team manages to keep engaged between turns.
Yeah.
Keep you engaged between turns. I think that had been my hesitation, fear. Certainly,
It is in
in
40K.
Right.
Because there's so much
Sure.
downtime between.
Well,
some.
and I find, and I know there's some disagreement within our group about this, but Shadespire has this problem. In multiplayer, I find it drags between player turns.
Okay.
I was shocked. One of the kind of earmarks of modern game design for board games is that ability to keep player engagement between turns, either by making them quick or whatever. Yeah, and at one point, you and Josh, I think were fighting, and I was like cheering on that. Like I was cheering you on because it would hold up Josh's guys,
Right.
and I was like, I'm in a pretty good position.
Right,
So
right.
It slows down the Harlequins. Well, then but I was like, with having no guys anywhere near that combat, was really invested in that out.
Especially once it breaks down into like the shooting phase, because then it's like whoever has readied models, you round robin it till you get to that point, and then unreadied models. You're never waiting for a whole. The only time you're waiting for a whole team to do something is just move.
Right.
And that's that.
And in a weird way, it's nice because it lets you kind of gather your wits to get into the back and forth.
Agreed.
Found it very enjoyable. Was surprised actually, and I think I keep hearing that from everybody anytime they do multiplayer kill team. It's like, oh wow, that was really good actually.
Yeah.
That was really good actually.
So then Austin came over yesterday and we played
Astronomicon approved
76 power level because he came with 76 power level for some reason. He's like, oh, I have the wrong unit, so I'm at actually 76. Well, guess what? I know from experience I can swap out this guy for Armin. Now I'm at 76 points. So I literally played the same list I played against you against him. And I ended up losing this game. We played Drunk Commander with the cards.
The Maelstrom cards, yeah.
And, it was interesting because he brought Gilliman at 76 power level and a bunch of Hellblasters and Intercessors and some snipers and Tigerius.
Whoa.
And so I ended up almost winning based on maneuvering. And this is one of the things I told Austin early on, because he's like, I'm never sure what I'm doing during deployment. And I go, man, I lose on deployment so many times. And I said, but more critical, I think, than deployment, especially if you're mobile, is the movement phase. I think more games are won or lost in the movement phase than anywhere else. And so what happened was...
And keeping your eye on the objective.
Right. Right. And we were across the table from each other, basically almost standard deployment. But what happened was he castled up in the far right around Gilliman. There were 6 objectives on the table. They would matter only based on cards. But to my far right, he had castled up with Gilliman, a Hellblaster squad, the Intercessors, and Tigerius. And then he had another set of Hellblasters and Intercessors off to the far left in case he needed to get to something. And then the snipers on top of a building. And what I ended up doing, as soon as I saw Gilliman in that group there, I just swung my whole army to the left away from him.
Yep.
Except I threw like some cursory sacrificial units at him to keep him over there. And then I just started picking off the edges with strikers and all this stuff. And by the end of the game, neither of us had a lot left on the table again, which I think is a testament to how fun the game is.
Right.
But when I say not a lot left, he had Gilliman still on the table.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And man, Hellblasters are just so brutal, and especially when you stick them next to somebody that's re-rolling, misses and re-rolling wounds, and it just you can't. Nothing can stand up to that much damage. Hellblasters are almost too strong, I think, in some ways. And 2-wound models, Primaris Marines 2-wound models are very interesting in the sense that I never really realized just how much of a huge advantage multi-wound models are like that. In mass, and they're really, really. I'm not saying like his army is going to go to a tournament and win a tournament. I'm not saying Hellblasters are going to win you tournaments, but it's a unit that people prioritize for a reason, to kill for a reason, because
especially when standing next to that Primarch.
Yeah, absolutely. And
nasty.
The other thing, so in the end, I had killed his like slam jump pack captain. I had killed, and at one point,
I hate those guys.
I thought he had to sit on an objective for 2 turns with that captain to capture that objective, or defend it or whatever. And I had applied what I thought were plenty of psychers to take him out, and I just rolled real bad that round and just couldn't pull it off. And I thought, man, I really thought I'd overcommitted enough to kill him, and I just didn't happen.
That's always so disheartening.
It was really disappointing, but it was a great game. I mean, it was super fun. Gilliman is obviously very, very tough, but in the end, he had basically Gilliman and like maybe 4 of the Hellblasters left,
wow.
and 1 sniper. That was
Bloody.
it. And
what did you have left on the board? I'm sorry.
I had lost
Was it pretty
at
bloody?
the end. I had a full squad of Rubik Marines, which is 5 in my case.
Right.
I had another squad of 3 of them. I had I think I'd lost all my. I think that might have.
So it was a
been
bloody
it.
game.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
bloody.
yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Super fun though.
Sweet.
And I learned a lot. And I learned a lot about maneuvering. I mean, one of the great things about that Thousand Suns army is those sorcerers on discs can move pretty quick.
Yeah.
So.
And then next time you guys play, you can reenact that battle of the Gathering Storm. You know,
That's right.
where Rubute
right. That's right.
fights Magnus.
Okay, so that was me. Justin, you.
Yeah, so I managed to get 3 games in. And the first one, for some reason, I got a weird desire to play with my Craft World Eldar, and most notably to do a Footdar army. I don't know where this desire came from. I really don't, but I just wanted to do it. So busted out the Avatar, and
I forgot to mention one thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me interrupt.
Yeah.
We also used the new beta bolter rules for that.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, and
That's right. Which Games Workshop is now
Yep.
is now beta testing. Yeah,
Yeah, and
forgot about that.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
It works out well, especially with your magical bolters.
Yeah,
that
not too shabby.
Are pretty rendy.
Not too shabby at all.
Sweet.
So I did.
I think it's
did
so
enjoy
cool they're
that.
doing that too, like the open beta little rule
Yeah.
snippets like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I think it's just a taste of what's to come. So
Yeah,
All right. Anyway,
absolutely.
sorry to interrupt, Justin. So 2K Footdar.
So yeah, 2K Footdar. I rocked. I don't know. I believe I did a couple battalions with this one. But it was I had like the Avatar, and I had Warp Spiders and Striking Scorpions and Guardians and Dark Reapers, and I had just all these models
Pretty
just
iconic army.
everywhere. Yeah, and it was all painted. I was playing against Roberts. He was rocking Imperial Knights and Raven Guard on this
Yeah,
one.
the dreaded Raven Guard.
Yep, and he took a Calexis assassin again, but he kind of put him off in the corner, which I was surprised to see. We were doing the chapter-approved mission, which all 3 of my battle reports are all the new chapter-approved matched play
Interesting.
missions, which I'm really enjoying.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're super fun. So this was the Vital Intelligence mission, which I really like. It's basically, I want to say 5 objectives you place, like 1 in the center and then 2 on each side. And then they're worth 1 point apiece. And you score, cumulatively. But you roll a die. Whoever has the first turn rolls a die. And if you roll whichever die, you number your objectives 1 through 5. And whatever number you roll, that one is worth 2 points.
Right.
For the mission objective. If you roll a 6, they're all hot for 2.
Interesting.
Otherwise, they're 1.
Yep.
So, really, really fun mission, and the game was super bloody, and I was really surprised I was actually able to pull out the W on this one with Footdar. It was like, damn, they still got it.
Yeah.
The Avatar put in work. He was
Yeah.
just dropping guys left and right.
Yeah.
And he's only got, I believe, 8 wounds, so you can't target him. So he's pretty easy to hide.
Nice.
Definitely misdeployed my Dark Reapers on that one though. They got pretty owned early on, but super fun game, really bloody. Still didn't kill his big knight though. Still didn't kill that guy. He just destroyed so many poor Eldar bodies just flying all over the place in that game. And then second up, I heard Skari from the Scardcast talking about doing a Drukhari battalion, brigade army. So it's just a single brigade of all Kabalites. And I posted a picture of that on the community page. It was like, damn, that's a lot of models. I got it all together. It was like, that's 2K. And it was a lot of models. It looked horrifying until I played against an all Custodes and Imperial Knights army. Oof. And I'm like looking at his army, and I think it was like 16 models or something, 18 models. And I'm like, oh my God. And even he was like, oh man, I don't know if I got this. This game, I made a lot of tactical errors. This was the chapter approved Beachhead mission.
Was this Robert again?
This was Robert again.
Okay.
Yep. He's kind of my regular opponent. We both bring the nasty, the nasty yet themed, I like to call it. But really fun to use that many Kabalites. I really enjoyed it. And this mission was, again, chapter approved. It was Beachhead. So you have like an objective in the middle, and then we each have one in our own deployment zones.
Yeah.
And you're trying to push forward. The one in your own deployment zone is worth 1 point. The one in the middle is worth 2. And the one in your enemy's deployment zone is worth 3. Mm-hmm. And we did Hammer and Anvil. And yeah, man, I made a lot of mistakes that game. Most notably, not deep striking my 3 Ravagers. Those guys, I should have burnt the 3 command points and had them in the skies, because I'd lost one turn 1, and then the other one got crippled. And those are just those units in your Dark Eldar army.
Yeah.
Anybody playing Dark Eldar out there or Drukhari, just reserve those things because people will kill them.
Yeah.
And other than that, it was a really fun game, really bloody. Again, I hate knights. This game, I will say, too, though, his dice, oh, my God. Mine were kind of mediocre, but his were like, I need a 4-up. I need a 4-up. Oh, you wounded me 10 times? Hey, look, all 4s, 5s, and 6s. I'm like, oh, man. It was just one of those games. So definitely got my teeth kicked in on that one, but super fun. And my third game, I played against Josh's Sharkadons, his Karkarodons. How do you pronounce it?
Karkarodon.
Yeah. You mean Space Wolves?
Well,
Space Sharks.
Shark Wolves.
Literally Space Sharks, because he's got the Karkarodons, and then he uses a Space Wolf character in there.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I think
he's trying
I think
to
he
make
even
it
runs
work.
them as wolves right now.
Right. That's what I was trying.
He uses them as Space Wolves, and then
Oh,
he
that makes
uses the
sense.
Karkarodon character,
Right.
which is
I get
totally
it.
fine.
I'm slow, but I get it.
So this was a 1,700 point game, and kind of going back, and this was also chapter approved mission. This was Vital Intelligence again. So the randomized mission objectives, which I really dig this mission. I think it's super cool if you focus on the mission and not killing every
The objectives.
Yeah, I just made a lot of mistakes this game.
You just got too bloodthirsty.
I got too bloodthirsty, and just I think my biggest mistake that game was I had 3 Talos in the middle of the board that were kind of holding my middle.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I decided to branch them out and spread them away from the middle to go after Linebreaker after his objective. But it was really late game. Those models should have stayed in the middle, holding my middle,
Yeah.
and dealt with his little characters of nonsense. Like he had a Smash Captain. Oh, and the other huge mistake I made this game was, and I even told myself before going into the combat phase, I looked at the table and I said, don't do it. For some reason, I charged his Smash Captain with a Talos. And for those of you who don't know, Smash Captain is a jump pack Thunderhammer. And
Storm Shield
This was
captain.
just a lieutenant, too.
Okay.
It wasn't even a captain. But I charged him with a Talos, and then an Archon also charged in. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And for some reason, I had an Archon that charged like a land speeder over here. I attacked with the damn Talos over here first. He burned his 2 command points.
To interrupt you.
Yeah.
He put like 3 attacks on each of my dude. Killed
Doing
the Talos.
2 or 3 wounds each, right? Oh, Thunderhammer 3 wounds each.
Wounded the Archon 3 times. First Shadowfield, 1, of course.
Well, yeah.
So he, of course,
Yeah.
kills both of them, and I'm just like, oh. As soon as he was like, I'm going to interrupt, I'm like, oh my god, what have I done?
No.
And it was just downhill from there. But we didn't end up finishing the game. But I think I would have really almost tabled him if we had. But he would have had all the objective points in the world.
Yeah.
I just played the movement game
And I think in
so
that mission
horribly.
specifically, it
Right.
says the
sudden death rules
doesn't apply,
yeah,
right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So it really fun game though. I don't play Josh nearly enough. So
Josh is
thank you.
super
None of
fun
us
to
do.
play.
Yeah, thank you for the game, sir. Appreciate it.
Yep. And Jody,
All right. Well, the good news is, folks, you've already heard all my battle reports.
is almost coming to an end.
Yeah. Let me see, 2 episodes ago, Justin and I played a great game here. You heard all about that. In the last episode, you heard about Carl and I playing a great game. And then you just heard about Josh and Carl and I playing a great game. So I played some great games. Over the holidays, I got a lot of hobby progress done, but it just because of family commitments and things, it was really tough over in on the Santa Cruz end of things to get people lined up to get games in. I'm hopeful. It looks like there's brewing up some in-store activity with some new gamers. So I'm hoping to go in and check out some of the local shops
Nice.
over there and maybe get some more games in because it's been tough to schedule. So, but you've already heard
But
about
you're
my
so
games.
close to Josh and Brian. But no, I mean family.
Yeah, the holidays
Working a lot.
killed
Can murder
Brian.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Brian and I were having actually my notes say Brian's a flake. He's not a flake. He got a migraine, which is real deal. The day we had our game lined up, poor guy got just floored. But then come to find out, he'd been going on 4 hours of sleep for a week and a half straight, and his body was like, no,
Well, that's how he
you're
paints.
done
That's how he
now.
paints so much, and then
Yeah.
and then he pays the piper in the end.
Yep. So yeah, but all those games were outstanding. Did on a slightly tangential note, if you get a chance to check out Blitz Bowl, if you are a Blood Bowl fan,
Yes.
do check out Blitz
I think
Bowl.
you said this is the only way to play, right?
Josh literally says it's the only way
That's
to play
right.
Blood
It was
Bowl.
Josh.
They're slightly different experiences, but man, it would be tough for me to go back to original Blood Bowl after playing Blitz Bowl. It's
Interesting.
that fun. And I am a deep diehard Blood
Blood
Bowl
Bowl
fan.
fan. Interesting.
And it's a really great game. It is a Barnes & Noble exclusive, so you're going to have to get it through them if you're going to look for it.
Wow, that says something.
Yeah, it's a weird deal, but it's the guy who designed it designed Dreadball from back in the day for Mantic, of all things.
Interesting.
Oh, interesting.
But the mechanics port over better now. Like, I played both games. Anyway, just wanted to give a pop that if you are Blood Bowl curious, Blitz Bowl is a super accessible way to
Buying
check
that
it
for
out.
sure.
Very cool. All right. Well, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back and we'll start our first ever Champions of 40K episode. This one is titled Heroes of the Imperium. We will be back in just a moment.
Great Scott, 00. Foam Finger's destroying all the models with his rough touch.
Oh, Mullins Penny. Don't you worry. Jond is on the case.
How is that, John?
I'm going to warn the world that they should be using the soft blue foam with the hard cases. Foam Finger will never ruin another model again.
You mean Operation KR? Is the world ready for that, John?
The world is ready. I'll make sure of it. The only way is to spoil Foam Finger's plans.
Hard cases with the soft foam is the only answer. You've convinced me, John. Let's move forward with Operation KR.
The name's Jond. Jimmy Jond.
Oh, John. See? Give 00 John the figures for this mission.
Go to krmulticase.com for some of the best storage and transport solutions for your army. Match almost limitless combinations of cases and trays in the KR transport system to suit your personal requirements. Reasonably priced, KR allows you to transport your minis safely to and from the tabletop, no matter where that battlefield is.
Hard on the outside, soft in the middle. KR Cases is where Jond always gets his foam. KR hard cases for soft blue foam.
All right, and we are back. And as I mentioned just before the break, this is our first episode of a new series we're doing called Champions of 40K, where we're each picking a couple specific iconic characters within 40K.
Or ones that just speak to us on some level.
Yeah, yep. We're trying to avoid Primarchs, so you're not going to hear Reboot Gilliman in this one.
He's real cool.
He's dreamy. You're not going to hear Magnus. None of those. We're looking for characters that speak to us in some particular way. We're going to talk about them in depth, and we'll see what transpires. So first off, this is our first round pick. Let's go through who we've chosen this round. Justin, let's start with you. Who have you chosen to talk about this round?
So as a young child, I watched way too many action movies when I was probably too young to watch said action movies, but my favorites in like order were probably like First Blood and probably Predator and probably in that order. Those are like, I just watched those
First
movies.
Blood is actually a solid movie. Like it's
Oh, heck yeah.
Predator.
Yeah. Oh, they both are. But what I'm saying is like First Blood often gets confused with Rambo, where Rambo became like this like larger. But
Right.
First Blood's actually like a decent, like it's a.
Oh, and then
good
of
movie.
course
Actually,
Commando. Of course, Commando.
oh god, so bad.
It's so bad, but at the time when you're a little like 10-year-old kid, which I was, it was just like yes.
I just watched parts. Yeah, I just watched parts of it recently. I didn't realize how often they play reggae drums through that whole movie.
Oh yeah, it's very Caribbean. Yeah. So I went with I'm sure you can guess Sly Marbo.
Okay. All right. So Justin's going to be covering Sly Marbo in round one. Jody, how about you?
I'm going to go with, might be biased. It's my pick, but the single
It should
most
be biased.
influential human in all of 40K.
Carl Tuttle.
That's definitely not who I was going to say. Lord Commander Solar Macarius.
Ooh, good choice. All right. And for myself, I've delved deep into Forge World's backstory to go with the
Shocking.
Red Scorpions
surprising everyone.
Commander Carib Kuln. Mostly because I think the Red Scorpions are a really cool chapter. I seriously considered doing them. I love the
scheme,
the yellow
the
scheme,
the
and everything.
background, yep.
But this guy has gone through a pretty interesting transition.
He's gone through a
over his
lot
time.
lately, right?
Yeah. So I've chosen him. Who would like to go first in our next session, which is who is this hero? What organization do they belong to? You want me to just kick us off?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So Commander Carib Kuln is formerly the Lord High Commander of the Red Scorpions chapter. He was believed lost to the Imperium in many campaigns that followed the Indomitus Crusade. He's grievously wounded while fighting the great beast of Sarum, and his remains are returned to the chapter, bearing only the faintest whisperings of life. And then he is installed into a relic Leviathan dreadnought,
which is a fantastic model.
Fantastic model. But before any of this even happens, he has a very central, pivotal role within the Badab War series for that Forge World put out, and had an entirely different model than this previous model. So you've seen him evolve kind of from, I think when he first comes on the scene, he's even a sergeant at one point.
Oh, that's cool.
In the
Did they have a model for? Well, we'll get into that.
In Imperial Armor 3, he was, if I remember correctly, and I'll have to verify before I get too far into it, but you've seen him kind of, I don't know if he's sergeant or captain, but he's basically gone up in rank and then met this kind of tragic backstory thing that we'll talk about a little bit. But that model, both models that Forge World has put out for him, both the one where he's in Terminator armor and this one, are fantastic models. So we'll talk a little bit about that.
Sweet.
So he is belongs to the Red Scorpions chapter, and for a long time he was running it. So that's who I'm going with.
Sweet.
Justin, you?
So this guy is pretty much a badass. He is known as the One Man Army, or Sly is his nickname. His name, whether it's the name that he's given himself or everybody around him is kind of given to him. He's basically just a guardsman, and I think that's what I liked so much about him. He's not like a high-ranking commander, or he's just a guardsman that knows how to mess stuff up.
Okay.
And he's part of the Catachan Devils, Astra Militarum Regiment, which is basically the closest thing that the Jungle Fighters have to Stormtroopers. So he's the elite of the elite, amongst like special forces.
Right.
Basically.
On the hardest of hardest possible worlds. He's the elite of the elite.
Yes. Yep. And he's just this dude who's like, he doesn't care about, talking to you and having a beer. He's always like somber and walking around just a total loner.
Yeah.
And they just like unleash him on the enemy force, and he'll just go in and sabotage supply lines and assassinate, vital targets, and just total like Lone Ranger type guy. He's known for obviously his guerrilla warfare techniques, striking hard, striking fast, and then disappearing. He's super renowned for his deadly sniping skills, and is considered to be one of the deadliest humans in existence.
Nice.
So just like Arnold Schwarzenegger and
or more appropriately Sylvester Stallone.
Or Sylvester Stallone. Yeah, very much like, obviously his name, it's
Sylvester
Rambo.
Stallone, known as
Marbo, Rambo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's got Arnold's physique though.
But he looks like Arnie, but he's Sly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what was the movie where they go into Last Action Hero?
Yeah.
Did you ever see that?
Yep. It's exactly what he is.
Where Schwarzenegger's going around, the kids trying to prove that that they're in a movie, and he says, "Oh, I'll take you to this video store," and they go to the video store, and he goes to show him the Terminator 2 like cutout where he's sitting on the motorcycle, and he comes around the corner, he points, he goes, "Look," and he goes. And they look, and it's Sylvester Stallone sitting on the motorcycle. And he goes, "That's not supposed to be here." He goes, "Yeah, what are you talking about? I love this guy. He's great." That's one of the best gags in that movie.
Nice.
He's just Mr. Action Hero, so yeah, had to
Absolutely.
pick him.
I think it's a great call out. Jody.
Okay, I went for a little 40K future history. Lord Commander Solar is a title. Macarius was a High Lord of Terra, was the Imperium's commander of the Segmentum Solar, so the Emperor's Segmentum. He led a 7-year crusade in which the Imperium recaptured literally 1,000 worlds in 7 years.
Wow.
He took the Imperium and it literally expanded the borders of the Imperium basically as far as you possibly could at that time, because the Astronomicon only projects so far.
Yeah.
Right,
And he got to
right.
the edge of it and wanted to keep going. To this day, there is the Macarius Trail, in which priests and missionaries will follow the worlds he conquered and follow his
On like a
path
pilgrimage?
as
Like
a
a pilgrimage,
pilgrimage. So literally, he is ostensibly a commander for the Astra Militarum, but he is a naval commander. He is a ground forces commander. He is the supreme commander. There, in one of the resources I found, it's the equivalent of what they would have called the War Master.
Right.
So he is an Imperial commander who would have held that title had that title had not become taboo.
Right.
Right. They stopped calling people the War Master for obvious reasons.
Pretty good reason.
Yeah. So Lord Commander Solar is the replacement title for that. And this guy adopted that mantle and then pushed the Imperium, when the Imperium is at one of its shaky points, to its absolute limit of expansion. And in a lot of the same ways as Justin just mentioned, he's still just a dude.
Yeah.
He is far beyond that in some ways, but he's just
a tactical genius.
Yeah.
But not only that, to succeed at that level in the Imperium, not only do you have to be a tactical genius, you have to be a political genius as well, because you have to be able to gain support and mobilize all these sometimes warring factions within the Imperium.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Themselves.
You got to play the political game as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's actually an incredible character.
Yeah, and the fanaticism that guides him to this greatness, which is also like the real tragedy of his story. I think there's that element, much like Colin, that there's this tragedy to the story.
Yeah.
And even to some degree with Marbo's, like, he's this one-man army, but there's also this kind of sad part to that story. I think all three of these guys kind of share that, and Macarius's end is just this tragic end that's awesome. So I that was my pick, is this
Spoiler alert.
incredible hit. Well,
Yeah, we'll get there.
Well, okay, Jody,
But yeah,
let's go right back into you then
Yeah.
and say, well, why this guy? Like, what is it about him that appeals to you, since you're already kind of starting to touch on that a little bit?
So what appealed to me, it's kind of twofold. First and foremost was that he's human, and when we think of the 40K universe or the galaxy in which we play, it's this massive scope. And if the writers and creators and shapers of the Grimdark do nothing well, or if they do one thing exceptionally well, it is create a scale and scope that is awe-inspiring and overtly intimidating. Like
Right.
the notion of thinking just for a moment, imagine yourself standing in a hive city or on the precipice of a grand fortification. Think about those scope of those pieces of art.
Yeah, it's massive.
And how incredibly insignificant you would be. I mean,
And you are.
Yeah, and are.
Or I would say how insignificant that hive city is in the grand scheme of the entire
Right.
galaxy.
The,
Right.
the entire planet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just massive. Yeah.
The notion that this one human was able to assert his will and this vision for the Imperium to such an incredible degree to literally reshape, reclaim, and reforge that which the Emperor had lost control of. Is this just super empowering story.
And it's just a human. Just quote unquote.
a human, right?
Yeah.
That rose to these incredible ranks. I mean, most of the High Lords of Terra are human, which keeps things kind of in a balance. The other thing that I really love about this character that drew me to him was he is clearly patterned after a historical figure. He is ostensibly Alexander the Great.
Right.
It is a direct 40K overlay, which is something I don't know that we see them doing as much of now as they used to.
Yeah, they used to draw a lot more upon historical events, and it seems like that's not so
They've
much
moved
anymore.
away from that a bit.
Well, their world's rich enough that they have their own history to draw from
Right.
now. Like they have their own layer upon layer upon layer. But it was that notion of that this human in this very short time frame achieved things that effectively rivaled the gods. And I mean that's Alexander the Great, right?
Yeah.
Is it the gods enabling this? Is it
Impressive.
the gods being the demigods of the Primarchs and the Emperor? You
Yeah.
know, that this guy did that. So what appealed to me was that this human could wield this incredible power and continue to wield it throughout his time. That was kind of what really, really drew me in. I mentioned briefly, do we want to get into the ending now?
It's up to you.
All right. So the tragic end of his story that also
this is clearly
appeals
something that appeals to you.
to me,
right?
is that he pushes out to the edge of the Astronomicon and he pauses and he's excited to gather and muster his forces to push beyond the reach of the Emperor's light to these planets that are heretofore unknown. Some have life, they think. but some scouting parties stop returning. Rumors start that they're haunted planets.
And then he gets eaten by Tyranids at the end.
Well, maybe in the modern story, yeah.
Necrons.
But what happens is he gets super depressed and frustrated, and he drinks himself to a stupor and locks himself away because he's so disillusioned. And there's this line that I really like from his history. It says, "But Macarius was a broken man. He dreamed of boundless conquest and awoke to find human fear and frailty. That what stops him is humans' inability to match his dreams. That he pushes here and he's like, let's keep going. We can do more. We can and it's the fear of the men around him who aren't willing to follow him any further that leads to his failing. His return home is then super clouded in mystery. He gets sick, air quotes, and dies.
Right.
But they stop and they have battles on his way home where he's going to be celebrated as a saint.
Right.
And he's going to be one of the living saints. And his men are celebrating that, oh, he had mercy on us and he's taking us home. I mean, imagine you're on a 7-year-long campaign going thousands of light years to the edge of the galaxy. His men were understandably exhausted. And then there's very conflicting stories, even up to and including that the High Lords of Terra were worried about their maintaining control and an assassin was sent to take him out.
That's probably what happened.
It feels right, doesn't it, for
Yeah,
Grimdark?
it does.
Yeah.
But it's that tragic, like, no.
He was about to discover something.
Right. This guy did everything he said he'd do, and when he's about to go even further, it's not him that fails. It's that we couldn't match his dreams. And it's like, oh, that is like the grimdarkiest at its best.
That is pretty awesome. Man, mine feels
I gotta
pale
follow
in
that up
comparison.
with. I watched a lot of VHS Rambo as a kid, and
I was juiced off of yours, man.
All right. Justin.
I'll follow that up. So I kind of touched on it as to why I picked him. Just always love those action hero types, and then kind of piggybacking off of Jody here of just like how you can go from a regular guardsman and become that much of just a killer and gain that reputation, and to the point where you're killing Banelord Titans by yourself. I wish his rules matched that.
Yeah.
But this guy is just he's kind of the polar opposite of Macarius, right? He's very short-sighted in a way. He's just killing whatever's around him, but he's just merciless, and he's awe-inspiring to which Catechins are like, these guys are already savages and hardcore dudes, and all these guys just have nothing but respect for him. It just was inspiring.
Okay.
And I get that sadness piece, just that if I could, that it's that loner thing that and almost when you watch those action movies, especially the early Rambo movies, that he can't really function any longer, not with the guys and sit down and smoking and joking and there is no shutting off for him. And then,
it's rumored that as he walks around camp, he's almost kind of like just sad and just somber and almost depressed, and almost like he's saving his energy up for his next battle, and then when he gets into battle, he's just, I'm alive. He's one of those guys, he lives.
That's the only time he's alive, right?
Yeah, so he's probably an adrenaline junkie, and he's just really talented at killing, and he's had some pretty cool exploits as well.
Yeah, I mean, killing a Baneblade. That.
Well, I have kind of the Chris Farley approach to mine, as opposed to the super deep, no man's land your guy has tread there, Jody. Commander Kaln. So there's a couple reasons I really chose this guy. One, he's not somebody when people go, oh, who's a hero of the Imperium, that you really think about. He's not at the forefront of any codex. He is, I want to say relegated, but he is a Forge World chapter. The Red Scorpions were a Forge World chapter. You don't see them very often on the table or really read about them often, because they only really appear in Imperial armor books. And earlier I said he might have been a sergeant before. I was incorrect. He's always been commander of the Red Scorpions in the Forge World books that I've read. So in Imperial Armor 4, the Amphilion Project, the Red Scorpions take part in that. I found him to be, kind of lightly touched on in there, but in the Badab Wars, where he really comes into his own, and he is kind of at the forefront of this war, and ends up engaging with Huron himself and all these things, and is just a really cool looking character. And again, the model appealed to me, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So Also, Forge World was more rare back when these books came out. And
Yeah,
so then
for
it was
sure.
even more obscure. Forge World really started to kind of take off, I think, with the Badab War stuff. I mean, it was always back there, but the Badab
Right.
War stuff, really people were blown away by how well it was written. There's a full-on page fold-out of him bearing the blade of the Scorpion, which is the weapon that the commander uses. I just think it's a great graphic as well.
for sure.
And then, as I mentioned earlier, he's gone through this transition where, and it kind of came out of the blue. I mean, Forge World was like, hey, look, a Relic Contemptor Dreadnought, and it's Kuln.
Yeah, and you're like,
to
what?
kind of bring him into the current storyline, because, I mean, this is a character they clearly like.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do you talk about him being around for as long, since the Badab War to now?
Right.
Oh, well, clearly, we stick him in a dreadnought, a la Bjorn, right? Which I think is really cool. There's one thing I really dig about Space Wolves is that you have a character dreadnought. One thing I like about the Minotaurs, you have a character dreadnought. One thing I liked about the Word Bearers, a character dreadnought. I like that concept
Sure.
of a dreadnought as a character in itself on the table. In particular, I think Bjorn's even in HQ, or at least I think he used to be.
He's either HQ or Elite. I have to go
I
check.
think he used to be in
No, he
HQ. I
certainly
could be
could be.
mistaken.
Oh, at one point he for sure was.
Well,
yeah.
and the Minotaurs one is an HQ, but he can't take your only HQ slot. So just very interesting. But I like the concept of here you have this effectively returning hero, and now he's a character in this beautiful model.
Right.
And having listened to, I'm trying to think of the story that Guy Haley wrote, and it was about this Black Templars guy, Dreadnought, and being woken up and everything. And I just thought, man, what a terrible existence,
Right.
But everybody venerates you in this terrible existence. I just thought, what a sad end for this guy, or end, quote
Right.
unquote.
There is no end.
yeah,
Nope.
only in death does duty end, and sometimes they don't even let you die.
Yeah.
So
I don't. My knowledge of him is from the Badab War campaign, which some buddies of mine got really heavily into for quite a while. Do we know what? How did he get from on the ground to into his sarcophagus?
Well, like I said at the kind of top of the show, he appears to just vanish while fighting the great beast of Sarum, whatever that is.
See, I love stuff,
And
like
I love
that.
when they
I
just-
absolutely love
yeah.
that kind of narrative.
Yeah, I love when they drop hints about things and let your mind run wild with what that means. And they thought he was dead, and then lo and behold, they find there's this little sign of life in him. When they find his corpse laying around, his quote unquote corpse laying around.
But now they're going to pull him out of the Dreadnought and Primaris him.
Well,
I don't.
They're
think,
going to have to
I
get him
don't
some.
think
They're
that-
going to have to get him some
interesting.
bionic legs. But other than that,
Yeah, I don't think so. I think this is kind of his. You haven't even seen his final form yet.
it's just a head.
Well, I mean, in the narrative, isn't that the thing? Is like whenever you read about dreadnoughts or how somebody becomes a dreadnought, it's they should be these iconic characters. They aren't.
Well, and they often are. It's not like they're just like, oh, you Joe Schmo TAC Marine.
Right.
These are guys that have proved themselves and are veterans or
Right.
commanders.
Right.
Or, yeah.
So to your point, that notion of like, why is it so appealing when we see these character dreadnoughts, Colin
Yeah.
in this case? Well, because whenever you read anything narrative, it's not like Bob Tactical Marine number 3. Like this dude was amazing.
We're all sci-fi fans. We like big stompy robots, and if a big stompy robot has some sweet character and sweet backstory, like Bjorn met the Emperor.
Right.
He's like one of the oldest guys around. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It just adds so much more depth to
Yeah,
to
for
a
sure.
cool model. Yeah.
For sure. So let's talk the models of these guys. And I'll start because Kuln, as I said, has been in 2 iterations now, and he's not available in his Terminator armor anymore on the Forge World site, which is really a shame because this is a model that has an incredibly cool dynamic pose with him wielding his sword and all that. But what they've replaced him with is Carib Kuln the Risen, as he's known now.
Sweet.
In this dreadnought form, which is just incredible. Again, you have the red scorpion motifs on it. I think both versions of this model are winners, like in the extreme. And I kind of regret not buying like the Terminator one at this point.
There's always eBay for
talking
low
about
price
this has made me kind of wish I'd done Red Scorpions now. I mean, but I'm sticking with the Minotaurs. But I'm just saying, and fortunately the Minotaurs featured in the Bad Ab War as well. But speaking as a fan of the models that Forge World has put out, like these are, I think, some of their best models.
Yeah, that model is incredible
in terms of Space Marines.
The Leviathan Dread is already a beautiful sculpt, and to have all the layered detail you get out of a character sculpt on top of that is something.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So, these models are just wonderful. And I like the fact I like these evolving kind of models too.
Oh yeah,
and I don't know what it is appeals to me about this, but in Age of Sigmar, Daughters of Cain, is that the one with the snake?
Yep. Morathi.
Yeah.
Morathi. She has two forms that she can take too. I mean, just that alone, like that concept.
Yeah, because how many characters have they really done? I mean, obviously they're doing that with the whole Primaris thing, which sweet, but a lot of those models, for the most part, are kind of older, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, no, I guess Marnius wasn't that old. But anyhow, I guess
been around in many forms.
But
actually,
without the exception of the whole Primaris thing, I can't. I mean, you get newer versions of a model, but it's not like, oh, Eldrad Ulthuran is getting a little crystalline. We're going to make him in a crystalline wheelchair, and
right. Well, for years, how long was
we're going to Professor X him?
Shave his head.
That's exactly where I went to. I was like a little bald, sad Eldar in a crystal ski chair.
See how I paint these pictures? Loopy, get on that one, okay?
Oh, here we go.
No, but just the story evolving for somebody, right? How long did we stay at, 5 minutes to midnight and nothing ever changed? So to literally see like, no, this is the evolution of this guy. How
and
cool
I have to say, I was somebody that was like, you don't need to move the story forward. It's fine where it is. And now they've moved the story forward. Honestly, I'm on board. Like,
oh, heck yeah.
Especially with, you thought the Eye of Terror was bad. Here, let's just rip the galaxy in half.
Yeah.
And I'm on board. So, yeah.
So I'm going to follow Carl
there you
on
go.
this one.
Go for it.
Because where my narrative was really cool.
The model?
Yeah, the model for me.
It's a perisculpt, but
wow, it's bad. Like
it's tiny.
Let's just go with it's bad. They tried to capture something of Alexander the Great's classic rendering in an Imperial Guard uniform. Yeah,
but in a word, if you instead replace great with Alexander the
meh.
Alexander the
pretty okay. Maybe. He's
got like a little staff up in the air, right?
Yeah, but he's holding it straight up and down like he's a drum major.
Right.
And because his arms can only move straight up and down because that's the technology they had
pewter.
at that time.
Yep.
And he's got this gilded armor and his legs and wrists are straight. They were going for something regal and ornate and got something kind of pudgy and round.
Yeah.
It just is not. It's a very dated sculpt.
It's from like 95 or something.
Yeah,
right?
and even when it came out, it was like a...
Man, I hate that you say it because when you say 95, I'm like, but that's not that... Oh, God, it
Yeah,
is a
just
long time
don't think
ago.
about it.
Yeah, that was a little bit. I had a little bit of that too, Carl. When I was looking back through, I'm like, I was in high school. Oh, jeez, man.
Goblin green bases and everything.
He does in sand, and
Yep.
he's sad and pudgy and like doughy looking. Like everybody, his head, he's like Charlie Brown on a golden toothpick. It's bad. Did not age well. And when it came out, it wasn't like, oh man, this is Solar Macarius. It was like, nope. That's anyway. Could use it in the parts.
I think I'll kit bash my own.
Yeah, no, and I remember that. Like people were looking for the guardsmen with like the old guardsmen with the metal chests.
Yeah,
and like, yeah, he was.
Oh God, I had to Google image him to come back to. That's as awful as I remember it.
Couldn't remember.
You see that picture?
Oh, it's as awful as I remember him.
It's
See, that's why he drank himself into Bolivian,
that's after the hard drinking.
That's sad Elvis.
Yeah,
that's Puffy.
He is sad Elvis.
I know. I picture him sitting on his throne, shooting the television, eating peanut butter.
Yeah. Golden greaves around.
Maybe
the
it's a
ankles.
bad paint job, but yeah, no, it's
a rough mod.
Okay.
Okay, but at the same time, this is great for radio. Here's one that's actually painted a bit better.
Well,
it's still terrible.
Yeah. So let's move on to yours.
Let's do a good one,
Justin.
Okay, so good old Shalai Marbo. The first iteration of this sculpt is old. I want to say it's from 3rd edition. So not as old as good old Solar, but not the best. It's just not the best. I mean, looking back at it, It's a little goofy. I mean, he'd be good nowadays for maybe just like a guard, little guard champion or something, but just not impressive. Old pewter sculpt. Again, not terrible, not as bad as Solar, but just not very inspiring. Now, that being said, we did get a new sculpt, and I think it's a really well-done model. Interestingly enough, when I first looked at it when I was doing show research, I swore he was a plastic kit, but he's actually fine cast.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever put him out in plastic.
Yeah, he's a fine cast. Looking at the model like from a picture, it looked.
You're
like
talking about the reissue?
The reissue.
Yeah,
is plastic or fine cast.
So is Eisenhorn. Actually, is
right.
fine cast.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's easy for one-off type models.
That's the thing, right? Yeah. And he's fantastic. I mean, he's standing on like a severed orc head, and he's got his machete sticking out of it, and then he's got one of those little like carnivorous plants on his base with like concealed explosive, little like push down.
Right,
dynamite type.
Plunger dynamite thing.
Exactly. Yep. And he's
Acme
got
on the side.
He's got a stogie and his wife beater on, and his tank top for whoever thinks I'm being weird. Just a cool model.
He's got some cuts on his arm.
Scarred arms.
Yeah.
He looks like a really fun model to paint that, like, if you did, you would just have to model him on like a pile of corpses and wreckage and just make him like covered in soot.
You want to practice some weathering and different fatigue, like show distressed fabrics and things. It's funny you say that, because that model to me, especially looking at the Cullen models, it's like a study in minimalism. Like, how little do you need to have just this incredibly evocative figure? And it's that. I mean, it's a dude in jeans and a tank top with a knife and a pistol.
But he exudes that just awesomeness.
Yeah,
he's just like,
just hard.
Come at me, bro. And he's just fantastic. I mean, I in a heartbeat, I would mess with like the face paint, like the face camouflage.
Sure. Sure.
Like in Predator when he's like getting all the stripes on him and stuff.
Or Commando.
Commando. Yeah. That's exactly it. When he's getting ready, geared up for battle. Heck yeah.
All right.
Cool model.
All right. So let's talk about the rules. And do these rules that are in play right now match the lore? Like, are they any good? Would you put them in your army if you had that?
Why don't we start with Jody? That'll be easy.
Let's do Jody's.
This will go quick. No. You guys?
Let's talk about the rules.
No. He did have rules in the 3rd ed Codex Imperial Guard. Third. He was pretty lackluster even then. He had extra attacks on the charge, because that's where you want your guard commander.
Yeah.
One thing, and Justin, you actually touched on this right away, though. Back in this era, the guard had this thing that was their opening bombardment, and it was devastating. I mean, it was multiple battle cannons unloading on you before the game started.
Templates landing on you. Yep.
Big ones. And he had this rule where he modified effectively to modernize it. There was something back then called strategy rating. My fellow grognards will enjoy remembering strategy rating and
strategy cards.
Yep. And he had a D6 and it modified. Anyway, effectively what would happen now, as best I can think of it, is you would get to shoot before the game starts, and you would have some kind of bonus to seizing the initiative to represent his mastermind. So I'm just wish listing here. These aren't real rules.
And probably like a bunch of extra command points too.
For days of some sort. He, of course, makes everybody within a foot of him leadership 10, which back then was just as good as it is now. Like, it still was great. But the one legacy he has left us, though, that is worth mentioning is Forge World does make a Macarius battle tank.
Yeah.
And that thing is gorgeous, and it wrecks face. I mean,
It's interesting. It's named after him. That's kind of cool.
You have twin link battle cannons.
Oh,
so
Enough
that
said.
seems good.
Yeah, so that seems good.
So he left an okay legacy of a cool model. There's no rules for him now. He's a hero of legend.
That's all. Yeah, still
nice.
Good stuff. Well, I looked at both. So he was actually in the 3rd edition book, and he was awful back then. And I looked at his current rules, and he's fun. He's kind of he's a lore choice. Does he match the lore? Absolutely not.
Isn't he the one that just like shows up? Didn't he just show up, throw a demolition charge?
He used to be able to.
The old one could potentially hit himself.
So he basically he deep strikes in.
Yeah.
And you get 3 abilities to pick from. You can either like move him an additional D6, or he can shoot immediately and even target characters with his pistol, which is not that good. I think it's like 3 shots, strength 4, maybe neg 1. So it's just, it's okay.
In the right situation, you're targeting a character, I could see.
Yeah.
But yeah, still.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or he can deal out some mortal wounds.
He's no commando.
Because he's known as like, when he arrives, like buildings are like blowing up all around him, and like concealed booby traps are just wrecking face, just amongst the ranks. And he jumps out of a tree and assassinates your Farseer. That's the lore you read.
Right.
And then this is like, okay, on like a 4-up, he can deal like D3 mortal wounds to a unit or something, and on a 6, it's 6 mortal wounds. And it's just kind of okay, and he's decent in combat.
Yeah,
but
there's better choices. And what does he run in points or power level? Do you know off the top of your head?
I didn't pull the points on him.
That's fine.
I didn't pull the points on him. I'd have to imagine like he's around the 100 points mark, maybe 80 around there.
Then after that, he's probably gonna die.
Yeah, well, he's got a cool rule where he can actually like once per game he can just disappear from the battlefield.
Does he basically go back into reserve?
Goes back into reserve because he's known as like hitting and running and just blowing stuff up, and then he just disappears.
Right.
And then he does it on the other flank.
That's if he survives that round after you drop.
That's
him
the
in
thing. Yeah. I could see like taking him because I think if I was to do a Catachan army, I would kind of like I'd want to take him mostly just for line breaker.
Yeah.
And to maybe like come in and like blow, but keep him in your pocket until late game, and then just get like a little line breaker out of him and maybe cause those last few wounds on. But he doesn't scream like coming out destroying a whole flank of an army.
Right.
I would have gladly paid like 200 points for him and had him just wreck face. I think
there was a version once upon a once when we still used templates, and the demolition
demo charge, yeah.
there,
That's
where
the
he
thing
showed up
Which
and
he
he
doesn't
could
have.
throw it on himself, which was
'Cause it
like,
could deviate.
scatter.
Yeah.
But he also was, I think, the only person, if I remember right, and I'm sure folks are correct, but he I think he could throw more than one, which was the big like, whoa, this guy can actually potentially throw multiple. And they were, I mean, as I recall, they were pretty devastating.
strong.
Yeah. So
super random though, because it can scatter right back on you.
yeah. But he could also show up and go like, that squad's now gone.
Right.
Kaboom. And it was like, oh,
See, that would have been awesome.
That felt awesome.
Like he pops out, tosses it, and then like on a
himself.
1, he takes D3 mortal wounds or something, and on anything else, you take 6 mortal wounds. Boom. That'd be cool. But what can you do?
But embarrassing, he shows up. Ha ha! Boom.
Yeah.
Blows himself up.
No one expects.
Well, at least we have
position.
command points these days.
This is
right.
true. So, Culn.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Back in Bad Ab War time and Amphibian Project, and I think at the time of Amphibian Project, he is like just the captain of like his company at that point. But or just before that, or he gets elevated just before that. He had some interesting rules back in 7th edition. Is basically where I'm heading with that. When he was in Terminator armor, et cetera, et cetera. As he goes into his dreadnought form, it's interesting that one particular rule carries over. It was called proud to live, proud to die, hard to kill. And that carries over into 8th edition as well. That was his rule in 7th edition. They name it the same thing in 8th edition. It's sort of similar. Proud to live, proud to die, hard to kill. You roll a d6 every time a friendly Red Scorpion's model within 6 inches of him loses a wound, and on a 6, the model does not lose the wound.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
Not too shabby if you're grouping guys around him. He is kind of a beast. He has 4+ invuln save. I mean, he's big. He has this thing called Death Hold.
Yeah, that 4-up's huge because Leviathans normally have a 5-up.
Yeah. Well, he's 18 points, so you're paying for it, but he has 15 wounds.
18 power level.
Or excuse me, 18 power level. Thank you.
Don't get our listeners too excited.
Don't get my power level in your points. He's 360 points.
Yeah, that's a lot of points.
He's beefy.
18's a lot of power level.
It is. That is a lot of power level
That's a
too.
greater
For
demon
those who
plus.
don't play,
Yeah.
we've now converted it. You can see
It's a lot.
but he's got this thing called Death Hold, which is pretty awesome. Basically, once per fight phase, after rolling hit rolls of 6 or higher with the weapon, he can choose to grab his opponent in a Death Hold, and then he can fire his heavy bolter at point blank range, dealing D6 mortal wounds to the target in addition to the normal damage he does.
That's pretty neat.
So that's kind of cool, and it's super thematic for, I think, a big dreadnought like this guy to be able to do something like that.
Heavy bolter to the face.
Yeah, anytime big robots have like those smash, tear, crush, kick,
I always
punt
love
attacks.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So like I said, you pay for him though. He's 18 power level, 360 points. But he's toughness 8, strength 8, which means his close combat attacks are now strength 16, meaning he's wounding most vehicles on a 2+.
How many wounds does he have? 15.
Yeah. So you can't hide him, but
Well, yeah. No.
even against a Land Raider, he's wounding on 2s. So he's going to rip a Land Raider to pieces with that. And, yeah. And, I mean, he's getting 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s. Or hitting on weapon skill 2, ballistic skill 2.
With rerolls, right? Because he's a commander?
Yeah.
Yeah. Rerolling ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's a bunch.
Yeah. So
If he gets in.
He's going to do work.
Joke. Yeah. He's no joke. So I think he's pretty awesome. You know, I don't know if he's worth that many points.
Yeah.
But if I were running a Red Scorpions chapter, would I run him? Yeah. I'd base my whole force around it.
Sure.
Right. I mean, I think that's one of
And
the
that's what he's
approaches.
supposed to be.
It's an important thing in the hobby too. Like, I mean, I think that sometimes the rule of cool can win out. You know, even if there's maybe better choices. I mean, sometimes something is just too damn cool. You just have to take it. You know,
Yep.
in a tournament, maybe not, but who cares? You don't play in tournaments,
Right. I mean, the way I play, if I were going to, like I said, if I was going to use him, I would absolutely he would be the first model I put in the army, right? And then I go,
Right.
okay, now how do I support him?
Right.
And I would build all these other things. He also has this, if he's reduced to 0 wounds, you roll a d6 before removing him from the battlefield. And on a 5 or 6, he explodes in a 9-inch range, dealing D3 mortal wounds.
I think that's a Leviathan.
I think that is a
thing.
Leviathan
Yeah, they
trait,
blow big,
but
Yep.
that's in here too. In his rules, it doesn't say he rerolls 1, so I don't think he is. Even though he's listed as commander.
Maybe that might have been too good with all his
It probably
gnarly
is.
attacks.
So-
Yeah, but
so-
I mean, he's hitting on 2s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Still doing work.
Yeah.
So it's funny. His what was the 3 named rule? Proud to
Yeah.
this, that, and
Proud
the
to
other?
live, proud to die, hard to kill.
So Scott did one of his factions of Space Marines was Red Scorpions.
Yeah.
And we often talk about that within that old game group of mine. Our favorite thing were the little one-line pieces of narrative.
Yeah.
Like just a little. As far as we know, because we all talked about this a lot, the first time it ever mentioned the Red Scorpions, the quote was that camouflage is the color of cowardice. So that proud to live, proud to die,
Yeah.
hard to kill.
Yeah.
Like that, and then it makes everybody literally hard to kill. That the Red Scorpions are like, no, we don't hide. We don't do that. Like that's super themey.
Right.
For them. I think that's great.
I just think it's a really gritty, cool chapter. But I think a lot of Forge World stuff was very gritty, and that's what kind of appealed to me about it.
Refresh my memory. What are the Red Scorpions kind of known for? They're like ambushers and like stealth warfare. Do you guys?
No, I
recall?
mean, they're, I don't think they have like one single thing that kind of sets them apart as a chapter like that. I think
They're a tactic, codex chapter.
Yeah, they're
Right.
a codex chapter, but I think, Cullen himself is kind of revered as like the exemplar space marine, it's like even the chapter thinks he's like the bravest of the brave, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so as far as supplements that you can find Cullen in, he is in, as I just mentioned, Imperial Armor, the Amphibian Project, so I think that's book 4. Imperial Armor, Bad Ab War, part 1 and 2, so that's, I think, 9 and 10, 8 and 9. And that's where he really shines, is Bad Ab War part 1, which is just fantastic. He's also in the Imperial Armor Index, obviously, because he's still there. And I think that's him in his Terminator form, because his Dreadnought form was released after that. And you can download those rules for free through their PDF. He was also represented in the Warhammer 40K Compendium in the first edition of the Compendium. You can see him in White Dwarf 105 in the chapter approved Land Raider section. And you can see the Commander Cullen all in the on the Forge World web store now in his Risen form. So absolutely love this character. I think he's really kind of a badass, gritty commander for me. What about you, Justin? Where can you find
Good old Sly. Good old Rambo. I mean Marbo. So he first appeared in Codex Catechin 3rd edition, which was like one of those, 5-page pamphlet books that worked with the Guard Codex. And he probably had a sentence of of background, which probably said, just watch First Blood. And then he was also in, as Carl's shifting my show notes around here and making it difficult on me.
Making it easier for you.
There you go. He was also in the 5th edition Codex, Imperial Guard, as well. And this guy's actually been around a little bit. And then also when the model came out in the Finecast release, he actually had the 7th edition rules in the box with him.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he was in White Dwarf 2017. I should have put which month. Just Google it. But he was in White Dwarf for
In
the actual
2017.
in 2017 for the actual updated rules.
And Jody, what about Macarius?
Well, if you want to do some historical digging and scratching around, apparently White Dwarf 240 US.
Just don't scratch too hard on his paint job.
Yeah. Well, it's metal; it'll hold up or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but you'll
Codex,
see what's underneath.
yeah, it ain't good. Second edition, Codex Imperial Guard from Second Ed, the bright green book with our aforementioned Catechin friends all puffy and round on the cover. So, yeah, you can check him out there. But if you can actually, this is probably
They really
one.
are.
Oh, they're swole, bro. Like not in a good way.
This
I
is
think
such
that's a rash.
80s art.
Yeah,
That being said, though,
90s.
I really those
Sorry.
models I think have
It's 80s art on a 90s product.
the actual miniatures from that range I think have held up rather well. Like the basic guardsmen and the Catechin sculpts from it, they might be a little small, and you only have so many poses.
Right. These are the medals.
And the tricycle heavy weapon teams can burn in Hades. But other than that, like there's some characterful good sculpts. Like I think you're on the Catechin page, Carl.
Yeah, I'm looking at
the
the
bald
pictures.
commander with the sunglasses and
Yeah.
the stogie and the bolter.
Yeah.
That's a good sculpt. I'm sorry, that would hold up
No, the metal guard from that era. This is pre-plastic Imperial Guardsmen.
so much more character.
Yeah,
you got
they
the
were great.
Mordians.
Well, they went into the what's the order, we cast it to order thing that the GW does from time to time. Yeah, they did a whole line.
Did
of
they
those.
from second edition? Really?
Those guys? Yeah, you could
Wow.
order some of those. Yeah,
They always go
do.
for a pretty penny on eBay.
The
still to this day.
Valhallan lieutenant he's the guy pointing his chainsword and the big heavy cloak, but still makes, everybody uses him as a commissar because he makes an outstanding commissar or Imperial commander.
Maybe in the back of my
those
head,
metal
too.
models did hold up, which makes
They did.
Macarius all the more sad that even amongst them
they
you're
can't
like,
they can't all be home runs,
No.
But it brings back a lot of memories for me because I remember buying that box of Catechin Jungle Fighters and painting them up back in second edition. I still have them to this day. I can't bring myself to strip them.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah,
Jody, anything else?
No. God, no.
that's all I've got to say about
any
that.
Black Library examples of your hero? I have none. There's no writing in Black Library about Commander Kuln yet, I shall say.
Yeah. And Sly has kind of shown up as he does in the lore. Not so much in all his grandeur, like this is all a book about me. He just kind of shows up in little chapters here and there. So he showed up in Strachan, chapter 12, and he's also shown up in Death World, chapter 4 and 7.
Okay.
So little snippets of him, which I'm sure he just comes in, erects face, and disappears.
And Jody.
There was actually a trilogy about his crusade, about Macarius' crusade. So it's Angel of Fire, Fist of Demetrius, and Fall of Macarius, all by William King. So, and I'm pretty positive there's a Macarius omnibus.
Fairly recent too, like within the last few years, those
So
came
it's
out.
a detailed recounting of his crusade. And
I
Marines
have
and-
not read those, but I honestly am interested in reading them now. I'm curious to see where they go.
do like, and I know from William King's a long time writer, so I actually know his writing, and I've enjoyed most of the things of his I've read. He does a good job of weaving kind of mystery and the world into his stories. You get a sense of the world around the character
Right,
really well usually
right.
in his writing. So yeah, he does have his own series out there, and like I said, I'm pretty sure there's an omnibus available.
So I think when we talk favorite stories about these characters, I think my favorite kind of telling about this character is during the Battle War. I already mentioned before in the first one, he kind of shines in that one. But ultimately, there's a point where he is in a battle, and you can actually go back and listen to our Battle War coverage because I talk about this pretty extensively. But there's this battle that he gets into with Huron at one point, and my only problem with it is it ends in a fashion much like The Force Awakens, where like he's in this battle and like he's just about to deal a killing blow. They've been going to town at each other for a while, and the ground splits, and there's he like collapses to on the other side of the thing, and nobody sees what happens to Huron, and
Makes
they
his escape.
split. But I mean, really, if you can get a hold of those Bad Ab War books now, which are not for sale by Forge World anymore, and I will never sell mine as far as I know
for that.
They are. That is an incredible story, even to the point where towards the end of the story, when they actually end up assaulting Bad Ab itself, like Kuln is responsible for spearheading, this entire operation. He really does come to his own in the Bad Ab War, and then ultimately they destroy Bad Ab in the process, overloading the reactors and yada yada, and the geothermal thing goes up. But just there's so many great like snippets of actions that he takes during that war that you have to read the whole thing or go back and listen to our coverage of it when Jeff and I did it. It really is a great story. So for me, that's what his standout. I mean, he's in the Infill-In project, but I mean, that's really kind of, 40K meets Jurassic Park, and who could have seen that raising Tyranids on a planet was going to go poorly?
What?
Well, clearly Commander Kuln did. And there's some great exciting things that go on there, but for the most part, I found the Bad Ab War story to be the best.
Nice.
Justin, what about you?
There's not many like in-depth stories with this guy. It's more along the lines of like little snippets of just how much of a monster he is.
Anything stand out?
I mean, obviously he single-handedly kills a Banelord Titan by himself. Probably climbs up the leg, runs up to the cabin, and just takes the whole crew out. But it's just full of stories like.
Okay, that's like okay. That's
a little much.
That makes
right?
more sense in how you take it out that way, as opposed to like
He just looked at it.
he just attacked it with his knife.
There's some Chuck Norris joke in here somewhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And stuff like, there's this
Kutch
like
Soren.
this guard contingent that's just getting overrun by Drukari, and Sly gets dropped in there and basically just slaughters these guys.
Of course he does.
And by the time he's found, like he's just like surrounded by corpses. He's got the head of the Archon like on a stake, and he's just like passed out, just surrounded by Dark Eldar bodies. But I think my favorite has to be, and this definitely calls back to like one of my favorite movies ever, Predator, the first one. That's the only one that matters. Is that during the Octavius War, Marlborough was deployed to blunt the efforts of the High Fleet Leviathan and actually hunted lictors for sport.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible as a regular old guardsman for you to get any cooler than hunting lictors.
Yeah, that's he is the man.
He is the man.
Or he's not quite sane.
Yeah.
It's like, if anybody's going to get into a dreadnought, it's going to be him before long.
Jody, what about you?
I think I peaked early.
Yeah, I think you did.
You did.
It's the end for him. It's just the campaign itself is glorious, and there's victories, and there's all these cool things and weird aliens, but yeah, it's that ending that they reach the Halo zone. And
reaching the
pretty
edge
awesome.
of the Astronomicon. I don't recall hearing many stories like that.
Well, let me tell you, I think it's Gav that, and I've mentioned this before, but he wrote that Mars series. And it wasn't until that series that it really like clicked into place for me, because it's like this Explorator Adeptus Mechanicus group with some Black Templars and a rogue trader, and they go out to the edge of the galaxy, and it's just black beyond that. But up until that point, like I hadn't really thought about the scale and scope, and he does such a good job of writing just how big the galaxy is. And I mean, like and I think we had him on for an interview about it, and I said it reminded me of Douglas Adams in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where he says space is big, really, really big, right? When you think about it in context of the Imperium conquering the galaxy, that is massive. In Star Trek, like the Federation only has like a very small part of the galaxy explored, and look at how they're all kind of over the place, zipping around at warp drive. I mean, these guys conquered the entire galaxy. That is inconceivable.
Right. 1,000 planets. Like
that was just him.
Him and his crusade. I mean, it's thousands
out
of
of billions of planets.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's that scale of, and I think another piece of that ending that I love so much is the notion of actually peering into the void.
Yeah.
That that if you call into the void, what happens? And he was there.
Yeah.
That notion of and I mean the way it is written, and the Tyranid said, "Oh, hello," like,
Howdy.
damn it, but just being that it gets that scale and that scope and that grandeur across that moment is sad as the demise is that comes after. It's still that moment. That's
what's
so
pretty
great.
amazing about the lore, and I said this during when we did the show force for the Eldar, is that how, in some ways, it was really, really forward thinking, and like
Some more than others at the time, right?
Clearly, but this story here is very interesting in just explaining to you the scope of what they're talking about. Like my 13-year-old mind would have never been able to wrap its head around that. My adult mind can barely do that. So
scale wise, no, but the tragedy, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
He's kind of, in a way, it makes me sad because hearing you talk about this character, it makes me sad that he's not around anymore because I'd want to see like a new sculpt and have all these cool rules for him. And there's nothing to stop you out there from doing that, but
But you're
sad,
not
man.
going to. I mean, the story's progressed beyond that point.
Right,
Right.
But what might a Lord Commander Solar look like now?
Sure.
So,
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to take a break. We're going to come back for round 2 of our picks, and we'll be right back.
Hey, this is Big Nasty B from Life After the Cover Safe, and I'm at a mall talking to strangers about Table War. Table War develops some of the most innovative products for the miniature wargaming and hobby industry.
And I develop pictures.
That's great. They develop things like the Fat Mat.
Who's Matt, and why is he so fat?
Well, first off, Mat is not a person. The Fat Mat is a tabletop gaming surface, and with over 40 different designs, Table War's Fat Mat has become a community standard.
I got a Surface Pro. It's like 10 inches. By the way, I'm meeting my friend Simbon. Do you know what that is?
No, but I do want to tell you about the Table War Tower case line.
Oh man, towers are so huge.
Well, it's not that kind of tower. It's the original modular, all-in-one display storage and transport system for all your tabletop miniatures.
Wow, you're really smart. What's your relationship status?
Well, it's complicated, but you know what isn't complicated?
Chili dogs.
This is true, but also the Macro Mat.
Oh geez, not that guy again.
The Macro Mat is a one-of-a-kind, innovative photography backdrop, perfect for collectibles, hobby miniatures, and small works of art. Its durability, portability, and functionality in one inexpensive product.
I wasn't paying attention to what you just said, but do you validate parking?
No, I do not. But if you want more information, head over to tablewar.com and check them out.
All right, and we are here for round 2 picks of our Heroes of 40K. So this is part 2. And this go-round, I'm going with another Space Marine. Imperial Fist Captain Darnath Lysander. And what about you, Justin?
Hammer guy. I took kind of a controversial choice here.
This is a controversial choice. We had a discussion about it.
I chose Cypher.
Ooh, interesting choice.
I had to get my little bit of chaos taint in there.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about that too.
I think
and
that's a
about your
super good
decision.
call.
I think it's an interesting choice. And Jody,
Another amazing human, Old Man Yarrick.
I'm so impressed. That's a good one.
Yeah, I was happy with that.
I was going to
choice.
pick him, like literally going to pick him, and then I saw your show notes, and I'm like, Jody.
Yeah,
But-
well, and then I was going to pick Cypher. And
So work.
Hey.
Hey,
Well, let's start with Cypher then, so we can have all our argument out front.
yeah, what an interesting character.
No, actually, I've got some. I think this is actually a very clever choice of yours.
Because he's
So who is he, and what organization does he belong?
or
That should
what
be-
do we think of him? Should be the question. Or who do we think he is?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
so
who do you think he is? This is really-
I-
You got the
after
mic.
after reading the lore, I honestly couldn't tell you. I mean, there's so many different. If you start reading into this guy, you can go down a rabbit hole of like, oh my god, is he
conspiracy theory?
all the conspiracy theories? Is he Janus of the Grey Knights? You know, is he Omegon? Is he just some random fallen angel who is on a quest? Who
We
else?
keep shaking our heads.
Yeah, I was like, great radio.
Jody
Carl
and I are
both
shaking
like,
our
no,
heads
no,
every
that's
time.
not
You're,
it.
no, you're wrong. Who knows?
Alfarius, you know, I mean, there's just
No,
so
it's
many.
definitely not.
Or Omegon.
So who is he in the long term view though? Like, what's
So the basic concept is that he's a fallen angel. Basically, that's just very enigmatic. Nobody really knows. Like the term.
Originally, in theory, of the Dark Angels.
In theory of the Dark Angels, the term cipher is not actually a name as much as a title given to like almost like a a maester of these knightly orders. They'd have like this high lord who was he would forego his own personal identity and give up his own life and just become an advisor type. That his whole purpose was to uphold the traditions of the order.
Right. I think it's a cool concept.
Yeah.
Like I really dig
very
the concept.
very maesterish, right?
Yeah.
And there's only been a handful of them. And then of course, even just him becoming Lord Cypher, that goes into like, is he, is he so-and-so? Is he this guy? Is he this guy? Like nobody even knows officially his pre-Cypher identity, really. There's conspiracy theories behind it. Fast forward to the current times, and he's just this kind of enigmatic guy that shows up, and he seems to kind of have this plan. He's kind of this gunslinger type guy who's robed and cowled. He's got a big sword, Dark Angel sword on his back, so people think it's like the lion sword or one of these ancient blades that who knows what he's doing with that. He never uses it.
Yeah.
It's always on his back. All he's doing is shooting his guns, and then when the stuff hits the fan, he just disappears.
Right.
So he can kind of teleport around and shunt around.
Right.
The Dark Angels are obviously hunting the Fallen because that's their big thing. They even like new recruits, they don't even talk about how half their chapter turned traitor. So all these Fallen that were just shot
Scattered
all over,
through
scattered
time
through
and
time and
space.
space. When Caliban fell, it's the Dark Angels' duty to kind of hunt these guys down and bring them to justice.
And they've labeled him as one of these.
Right.
The
Fallen.
If there's a chance that it's him, they will forgo all other Fallen to try and get Cypher.
Right.
And they're able to kind of track him through their librarians can kind of track his signature a bit. So whenever these Fallen show up, they zone in on him real fast. And as soon as they've actually captured him a couple times, but he just disappears.
What a stud.
He's got this ancient. He must have this ancient, which they rumor and hint at that he's got this alien tech on him that he just kind of shunts around.
All right. Okay, we'll get to why you've picked him in a little bit. Jody, why don't you go ahead for your second human?
Yeah. So
your Umi.
In a galaxy of superhumans, I like that Jody's picking just humans.
There's the theme. Yeah, so Commissar Yarick is famous largely for the Armageddon Wars. Not first. He was not there for the first.
No.
Second and third Armageddon Wars. He is the antagonist to Gazkul's protagonist in the Armageddon Wars. He is the hero of Hades' Hive. He single-handedly blunted Gazkul's first attempt at destroying Armageddon. Has been captured by Gazkul himself, stood eye to eye with the great beast, and been released, and then fought him yet again, and now gave pursuit a second time. So the biggest, baddest orc in the universe is harassed by this old man. And the story begins for Yarick as a retired soldier.
Right.
He is retired from being a commissar when his story begins.
He gets kind of dragged back in.
Yeah.
He's just got true grit, doesn't he?
Indeed he does. Nice.
All right.
So yeah, that's my guy. Astra Militarum through and through.
All right. Well, again, as I mentioned, Darnath Lysander is my choice. The first captain of the Imperial Fist chapter, First Company, overseer of the armory, and this is my favorite part, watch commander of the Imperial Fist mobile fortress monastery, the Phalanx, which is just an awesome ship that just cruises wherever it's needed and is the mobile kind of command platform of the Imperial Fist when they are not on Terra itself. So I think just that is awesome. So even for him, they say he's had this long and bloody career as a sergeant, and here we go again with the minute things. He's credited with the successful defense of the colonial bridge and hailed as the vanquisher of the heretics of Iduno. And as captain of the second company, this is my favorite part, he led the storming of the Eldar cruiser Blood of Cain and rescued Hadric Tor. Rescued the Hadric Tor planet strike from being a complete disaster. So, I mean, very, very, much like my first choice, kind of a revered Space Marine amongst Space Marines for his stoicism and fortitude. So, Obviously, Imperial Fists. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. But what appeals to me about this guy, that you've seen him grow, much like Kaln as well. I like that he started off as a sergeant in the earlier codexes and progressed into what is now a captain. What really appeals to me most about him, though, is visual. And I will talk about that in a little bit. So I'm going to say that just now he's kind of the pure definition of stoicism, which he's almost a mirror representation of Dorn himself. And that's what I kind of dig about him.
Right. And I think the Crimson Fist, for me, as a chapter,
Yeah.
are one of the more...
Imperial Fists.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I thought you were going somewhere with the Crimson
No,
Fist.
excuse me. That was
which
just
are
you have Pedro Cantor's book open in front of me. And
Oh.
I'm going to blame it on that.
There's Lysander.
There's Lysander. There he is. So the Imperial Fists, thank you. To me, are one of the more confusing chapters to put your finger on as far as like what are they about. Like Justin, you asked about like what are the Red Scorpions, like what's their strategy, what's their
right.
And in a weird way, I think Lysander is like the perfect embodiment of. There's almost a duality to the Imperial Fist that I think is kind of hard to get to really dig into for me.
Yeah.
I'm sure Imperial Fist players out there are like, no way, they're the best. But I don't know. I think he's a great embodiment of that in his role.
Yeah. I think so too. Justin, let's go with you.
I know not whether Cypher is the greatest threat or the greatest hope for the Imperium. I only pray we can stop him before we find out. Pretty cool. This guy
That's a pretty good quote right there.
He's just surrounded by mystery. Nobody knows. And it's where kind of the controversial kind of draws that line of, because he does help the Imperium. He clearly has his own agenda, whatever that may be.
Yep.
But he's known to show up and help, the Silver Skull Space Marines or the Black Templars or some random Imperial Guard brigade fighting. And oftentimes he'll kind of disguise himself.
Right.
Because he can't really show up looking like Cypher. So he's kind of got that kind of a little bit of that Alfarius. We are Alfarius kind of feel to him.
He has almost like an Eldar kind of thing, right? Like, what are his objectives here? Like, sometimes you can't tell what the Eldar's objectives here because they divine, like, as we look at the scheme of everything and how everything, if we kill this man on this planet, we prevent this huge thing. So they attack these humans to kill this man, even though we're not at war with the humans. We're just trying to prevent this huge catastrophe that this guy's going to, maybe his children's children become, some alpha level psyker or something. And this is the point where we can stop it.
So like what does he ultimately know? Like what is his agenda? And that's where it kind of goes back to like a lot of the conspiracy theory people think that he is Omegon or whatever. Because back in the day, like Alfarius had this ancient alien race, go to him and say, this is what's going to happen if Chaos wins.
Right.
And this, So
if you've read Legion.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is he trying to do? Is he trying to save mankind or is he trying to destroy it? Is he trying to bring this?
Do you have a theory? I have a theory.
Well, I think so. A lot of what
spoiler alert, people
is a lot of what you said is this like idea of like he shows up to help, but also every time he shows up, everything falls apart.
Yeah,
like wherever he shows up, planets get decimated, people get wiped out by the thousands. Like,
and it's
there's
also
a trail of ruin that follows this guy everywhere.
Right,
but against both sides though too. Like he'll annihilate Chaos and he'll annihilate Imperial stuff. I mean, and his trajectory is kind of going towards Terra.
Right.
So everybody's like, what is he doing? Is he going to try to kill the Emperor?
And during the final kind of chapters of
the Gathering
Storm,
he helps Rubute,
and all he wanted to do was go into the room where the Emperor sits.
Right.
My theory, and I think, and I've kind of like this has been a theory going around for a long time that you said he's going towards Terra. My theory is he is trying to kill the Emperor, and initially I was like, well, maybe.
So the Emperor's reborn.
Because they did just mention
Starchild.
No, not even Starchild, but they mentioned, which is, for those who don't know, is like an older like thing they had written in original Rogue Trader that they've kind of moved away from. But what they have talked about, what they've replaced some characters with and made new characters of, are perpetuals.
Right.
In the Horse Heresy series, and these are characters that don't die. Like, you kill them, but they just
come
show
right
back up.
Yep.
And in one of the latest White Dwarfs, they were listing all these things, and they said the Emperor is a perpetual. So if he kills him, I mean, they may be right. If you kill the Emperor on the throne, he may very well be reborn, is my thing. So that's what I've kind of landed solidly on.
Yeah, because the whole like he's trying to bring the broken sword back and like get forgiveness for the Dark Angels.
I don't know how ceremonial that is, or if he's just, you know. And I think the ruin kind of following him is kind of like his curse. Like this is how I like to think about it.
But why would he? Where would he gain that knowledge?
Well,
in your
knows?
theory,
Who knows?
Okay.
Right? I mean, he is a master of many secrets and that kind of thing. Maybe somebody told him. Maybe he's learned somehow. There are other perpetuals, and without doing any spoilers, there's even Primarch that is a perpetual. So, you know, yeah, who knows?
Maybe Cypher's a perpetual.
Oh,
Could be.
heck, that may be true too. I didn't even think about that. You know, he could be as well.
He's just a really
which would
enigmatic
explain
character.
a lot of
indeed.
you know, his disappearance and reappearance. And maybe he's killed multiple times, and who knows? But
Well,
I
I mean, they
think
actually
genuinely
captured
that's
him.
his objective.
They've captured him several times, and he just blinks out. You know,
Well,
maybe,
Gilliman wouldn't let him go in and talk to the Emperor either.
Right.
Right.
So,
Well, yeah.
and then Gilliman
It's 'cause
went in
Ultramarines are
and talked to
liars
the,
and-
then Gilliman went in and talked to
easy.
the Emperor. He was like gone for like 3 hours, and then came back out and said, "Okay, this is what we're gonna do." Like nobody knows what was said between them.
Right.
So,
See,
I think genuinely that's what Cypher's
for
trying
me,
to
the
do.
key has always been, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I started, just like Justin said, I started going down the rabbit hole of reading about Cypher.
There's a lot out
and
there.
I was like,
He's a fun character to speculate about.
yeah, and I had to tap out and be like, it's Justin's one to talk about. I give Uncle, I'm out. But my understanding is he was there not only when the planet fell, but when Lionel Johnson fell.
He is ancient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, but again, whether
That's-
it's the same guy or not.
But also
Right.
they're thrown through space and time, right?
Sure.
So
Right. And the packing of the sword for me was always the key piece of like, what's
What's up
is
with the
that
sword?
the lion's sword?
and he
Is
never
that-
draws it in combat, even
Right.
if like, you know, both his pistols are batted out of his hands. Like
Right.
he'll never use it. And at one point too, he had a Catan phase knife that like
oh, that's kind of cool.
that he was fighting, I believe he was fighting demons with it, and somehow like got trapped in the warp, and then it got stuck in the warp, so it created like a loop where sometimes it'll appear on him and he'll have it, and then other times it disappears.
Right.
It's just there's just so much to this
What
guy.
a fun! It's a fun character.
Yeah.
I think it's a really fun character.
Yep.
So for me, I love that it gives, and in a weird way, I also love, I think my favorite thing about Cypher and all the speculation, and mine is that it is the answer to fixing the Dark Angels, because the Dark Angels are fundamentally flawed as a chapter. There is this blemish on them. That is
And they're distracted by it.
yeah, and it makes
time.
them
Yep.
unreliable,
Yep.
and they're irreparable. And as I talk about Yarick actually in a little bit, the Dark Angels are problematic.
Yeah.
And I think that Cypher represents not only this flaw, but he's also this chance for redemption for them. But it's
Sure.
this weird unwillingness to accept whatever it is. Like, I think as a story mechanic, that's my favorite thing about him is the speculation for me always goes back to, so what is the answer for the Dark Angels? Like, how do can they fix themselves?
Mm-hmm.
Can they regain their glory? And I mean, that goes back to, you know, they were flawed almost from the instant their Primarch showed up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But is Cypher somehow the answer to that? I don't know that I've ever really considered too much the grand scheme of he has the answers to the galaxy tracking around them. But I think
I
it's
don't know
just
about the
as-
answers to the galaxy, but I think he believes. I truly believe like his objective is the rebirth of the Emperor.
Well,
Yeah.
and my
Yep.
thinking of the sword is the key would certainly fit that. If that weapon is the weapon to kill the Emperor.
But doesn't that also go back to, I keep going back to this, but doesn't that also go back to like the whole Alfarius and Omegon thing where like they were kind of on differing sides of should chaos be stopped or should chaos be left to
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But you got to read further in the Horus Heresy series, Justin.
gotta do what? I'm sorry?
You got to read further in the Horus Heresy series before I can have this conversation with
I don't
you.
mind spoilers.
So
We'll talk after
yeah,
the
all right,
show.
Oh,
all
my
right.
goodness.
So let's talk about these models, and I totally want to go first here. Oh, I skipped you. Sorry, Jody. Go.
Okay. Well, no, I mean,
We
Cypher-
all got so enraptured
I got
in
so
Cypher.
excited about Cypher and about the next section.
we're all
so.
Dark Angels.
I actually like the Dark Angels. I know Jeff used to hate them, like with a passion.
I like reading about them. I wouldn't play them for anything. I mean, we all know, okay.
I think their models are fantastic.
They're cool looking.
Anyway,
yeah. Anyway, so Yorick. So this guy Yorick now, meh,
Yeah.
I guess I'll follow the cipher amazement. Yorick he's a common dude, and like not only did they make him like a common trooper, but they made him a common trooper who's retired. So like it's not even like the height of his sagacity that he's stomping around fighting the biggest, baddest orc in the galaxy.
They dragged him right out of the home and they said they put that cap on him and
So Vaughn
gave him his ash arm. And
my favorite part of the Armageddon, for the second war for Armageddon, is that Commissar Yarick had told off the commander of the planet von Straub or von Straub.
Right.
And he's like, there's some great quotes about him being like the biggest waste of humanity that's ever been produced. Like this guy, this Imperial commander was just a disaster. So Yarick calls him out on it. And then he like exiles Yarick to be like some platoon trainer on some little dinky outside of some hive.
Yeah.
And he's just like, fine. And he's waiting out his days. And then the stuff hits the fan. And he stands up, to this.
That's where heroes come
force
from.
Of nature,
Yeah.
right? And then and it's kind of cool when you get into his backstory of like him being this orphan kid and like getting raised by his grandpa, and then like his planet gets wiped out by orcs, and they find this 10-year-old with like a knife, and he's like feral living under a bush eating.
That's right. I forgot about
orc
that story.
supplies. And then they stick him into the school, and he turns into a commissar, and he has this great career, and they retire him. And all that's just prelude to him being this one-armed, one-eyed, angry AF old man who stomps around after this giant.
I just can't
orc.
help but think of like Full Metal Jacket quotes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, like how's that if Yarick is your drill sergeant? Like,
Oh my
that's
God.
gotta be rough.
Yeah.
That's pretty uncompromising. So yeah, it's this human element to this guy of just being absolutely uncompromising, and the bigger the challenge, the more aggressively he rises to that challenge.
Right.
And I mean, again, not to overemphasize it, but he is facing in a physical form arguably one of the biggest challenges the galaxy can produce.
Right.
So yeah, in short, it's that.
It's interesting to see a commissar kind of take control of forces like that too, because commissars are normally just there like inspiring morale, just summarily executing people, but like he's a real general, like a real commander.
Yeah, when
Frontline commander.
Frontline commander, yeah.
in the third war for Armageddon, he literally is in control of the Imperial forces on Armageddon.
Yeah.
Even Dante defers to him. Commander Dante of the Blood Angels goes, "No, you understand this threat better than anybody here.
You
Go
fought it
ahead."
before.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in fact.
Effectively, on a grand scale, not face to face.
Right.
Yeah, so it's that, and the Armageddon story is. I don't know that I'm as much in love with the Yarick stories outside of Armageddon.
Yeah.
But the Armageddon stories for Wars 2 and 3 are so compelling that, and I mean, I got to live through and play in the worldwide campaign on the third one, so got to feel like I took part in it myself. So yeah, that's what appeals to me about him is just this absolute force of will driving, this shriveled old man.
Awesome.
Who refuses to die.
That's right. Yeah, really does.
Yep.
Okay, so now the models. So Darneth Lysander's model
So good.
Yeah.
is so good. This was actually
Even I bought him.
This was actually the first character model I ever bought when I started playing 40K.
Yeah.
And I was creating my own chapter, and because of him, I was like, oh, you know what? They're an Imperial Fist like Descendant chapter, because this model is so good.
Really well
stance,
done. Doesn't he have he has like a mohawk too, right? He's got like a mohawk and a big, like the big thunder hammer.
The
I
huge
think
thunder
he has the
hammer.
huge
Big
thunder
shield.
hammer, the Fist of Dorn. He has that shield, that like iconic shield.
Yep.
His stance is one that's just like him stepping forward to like accept any challenge. I love Thunderhammer, Storm Shield, Terminators. It has so much detail. And I mean, when I think about, this is when I first started. I don't know how old the model was when I first started, but it was a metal one. Now it's, of course, a fine cast one. But it had so much heraldry and detail on it.
Right.
I don't know why we don't see more Space Marine characters like this guy. Like, this guy is so freaking epic in every way that I fell in love with this model immediately. So,
Easily one of the better Terminator sculpts
Oh,
out there.
yeah, without a doubt.
It's the perfect balance of heavily ornate, that there is no question this dude's special, but at the same time, he's still a Marine.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Unquestionably.
Yeah.
Like some of the, I know a lot of people, I'm going to get hate mail now. A lot of people love the Terminator Chaplain model.
Yeah, me too.
He's too much for me. Whereas Lysander
really?
stops just short of being too much.
See, the thing I like about that Chaplain
right.
model is you're like, I remember the first time I saw him, I'm like, what is the deal with this guy? Like, it made me, what is this? Right. Lysander, like his cloak, the
Yep.
stance, the no helm in the Terminator armor, like this guy exudes hero.
Right. And you said he's like the stoicism
Yeah.
of the Imperial Fist. And he
Yeah.
looks it. Like you said, he's marching forward to
Yeah.
I'm going to take on whatever's coming.
Without my helm.
Well, once you get past 10 years, they
You don't
put a
need
metal stud in your head and take your helmet.
Yeah.
And you know what the best part
That
about
blocks
this?
everything. Kind of like a chainmail bikini for the head.
The
That's
best
right.
part about this model, man, hands down, the best part. He's got a soul patch.
He does. He does.
He's got a '90s soul patch.
He's awesome looking.
So,
awesome looking.
and I was saying earlier that like for me, the Imperial Fists are really confusing. And what's not confusing, that's probably a terrible term, but like on one hand, they're the home defense force, right?
Yeah.
So they're defense.
But they're also out there cruising around.
Right, but then you go, well, who are their successors? The Black Templars, the Crusade force.
Well, yeah, I
so
mean-
there's this duality of soldiers
Yeah.
being defenders, but you always get the feeling like the Imperial Fist would really rather be out there wrecking face than
I
on
think so.
defense.
and stealing our glory.
Well, and I think
As
there's
an Iron
part
Warriors
of their ego. They were there to defend Terra. What happened? The Emperor fell.
Right.
Not
Not on Terra.
Well, okay.
Yep.
They good point. But they were there to defend Terra. This happened. I'm sure they want some retribution for it.
Sure.
The Black Templars are a descendant of Imperial Fists, are a crusading chapter. They cruise around in a fleet. Some of the Imperial Fists chased the heretics right back into the right to the Eye of Terror. I should say, not back, but so I mean, I'm sure it speaks to them in some primal way too.
Right. And Lysander is the hammer, right?
Yeah.
He is going out on behalf of them to meter out justice.
They layer themselves in something called a pain glove
oh yeah.
to basically punish themselves in a way and learn to endure pain. I
Right.
mean, so
The Crimson Fist. Is,
yeah. I mean,
Their other successor.
Yep. So anyway, okay.
Iconic model.
Justin, what is yours?
So the first model is not good.
No.
No, second edition. I mean,
I don't even remember him.
yes, it was. What you can Google it later. It just wasn't very impressive. He was just kind of this cheesy little kind of scrawny dude with a
Yeah, I
not
don't even
as
recall that one.
good a version as the
Okay.
current one.
Current one, plastic.
Current one's plastic.
Came with the
Triumvirate. Yep. And the current one is just amazing. That is such a good sculpt. I almost kind of like when I envision Cypher, I don't really imagine him kind of standing around too much.
Yeah.
But it almost looks like he's kind of looking down and getting ready to like beam me up, Scotty, kind of teleport and zip away. I kind of would have liked to have seen him in a little more of an action kind of like John Woo style, like diving and shooting or something. But regardless, the new model is really well done, really well detailed, a lot bulkier, obviously, and I will paint that.
I mean, I
long.
think he looks like he's. I don't know. They do a good job of making him look. There's almost like an element of
you almost don't know what he's doing.
Dracula to him, like in a way. I mean, I don't mean that in the physical, like he's got fangs and sense, but like the stance of like he does appear to me to be in motion a bit, but like turning and bringing his one of his pistols to bear.
Like
Yeah,
anime style, the cloak could continue to ripple and then just fade away.
He's throwing the cloak back. I don't know. I think it's a beautiful model.
Oh, it's
though.
so well done.
So good.
I actually kind of like the original one too. The dual pistol wielding gunslinger.
Yeah, so the original does have that more of that
More
gunslinger
dynamic pose.
Yep.
It's just that, like many models of that era, his head is about 5 times too big.
Right.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and he's got the cool.
He's kind of leaning
wing-
to one side,
Yep.
and he's
he
got
has-
a cool backpack. His backpack's super rad. But
I
yeah,
think-
the new one's so.
And I think the cloak
amazing.
on the new one, like I love the tattered cloak
Yeah.
too.
I remember like first seeing this model just being blown away. I mean, it's just the little details. Like I love his armor is super ancient looking, which is befitting. His pistols are like clearly a plasma pistol and clearly a bolt pistol, but
like
super
design.
unique. Yeah, really ancient design. I love the leather vam braces he's got over the power armor.
Yep.
I mean, it's just one of those models. The more you stare at him, the more little detail. Just his shoulder pad. Everything
really
about
cool.
it.
You know, I would say the other interesting thing about this model is it came out with the triumvirate, and it was Gilliman,
Greyfax,
and Greyfax, and he. Of all those models, I mean, people were excited that a Primarch had come back and stuff, but I think
kind of stole the
almost
show a
stole
little.
the show.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. What a great set that was.
Yeah, I got to buy this model.
Yeah, I love that he's grabbing for that second pistol.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it because the lore.
hand
That's exactly what he's doing. He's reaching for that pistol.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Actually.
He'll grab them he never keeps the pistols out. Like he'll grab them, shoot, and then holster them again. Like he never actually runs around with them. He just runs, shoots, puts them back. Like
very cool.
Super rad. Yep.
How disciplined.
Yep.
All right.
Well done, Games Workshop. Give that designer a raise.
So, Commissar Yarick has two models. He's been updated. Both are amazing for a change. We didn't go from...
Okay.
Well, I guess Colin had the luxury of being two amazing models.
Different. very different models, though.
Very different design aesthetic, though, from the one to the other.
For Yarick?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one is circa 95. It is a Jess Goodwin sculpt. It is very 95 in its sculpting. The body proportions
2D.
are pretty... he's very flat, yeah. But the power claw he has this very almost like scissor-like. It's bright orange. If you've ever seen it, he has a very bright orange power claw.
Yeah.
It's scissor-like in its design. And then it has the index finger and thumb create a pincer-like, and then you have the other three fingers are kind of pointy, and it's massive. He has this banner pole with an orc skull on top of it.
Right.
He's got a bolt gun up to the left that has it looks almost like a grot body has been skeletal caged wrapped around the bolt gun. He has a giant banner.
Right.
He's got his Bale eye. He has one eye. The iconic piece of Commissar Yarick is not only, of course, his power, or that he's a commissar, so he has the Commissar uniform, but that power claw that he infamously ripped off the arm of another orc war boss.
Right.
And then continued fighting, and then had the power claw grafted onto his own body.
Psycho does this.
Well, and then the Bale eye, I don't know if he lost it in the fight or not, but he made the choice he told them no, the orcs think I have an evil eye glare that I can put them at bay, so give me an eye laser so that it's real. Just that dedication. So the Jess Goodwin one is, if you want to look at a model that of the 90s kind of aesthetic is iconic, it is that. By today's modern standards, would you look at it and be like, oh, that model's rad, I got to have that? I don't know. It's kind of cartoony. It is looking a little dated. And I mean, to be fair, it's 20 plus years old. Yeah. Now, somewhere around 2000, they redid all the commissars. And I had to reach out to Justin because my Google foo failed and my sculpting knowledge hit a wall. But we both came up with the same. We're both pretty sure it's Brian Nelson's
almost
work.
Positive.
Okay.
He was doing all the orcs around that time when they got their big redesign.
Yeah.
And the new Yarick is very much in line with the existing range of commissars.
Yep.
His power claw is very much in line with the current orc power claw look, and still a great looking model. Not quite as ornate, well, not quite, nowhere near as ornate as the old Yarick,
right,
who was really over the top. But this one looks like a really hard commissar. And one of the things I love about him is, other than the great big power claw, he's actually slightly smaller than the other commissar models of that era.
Yeah.
He's because he's an old man. He's
Right.
old dude.
They definitely seem to have kind of aged him a lot more too in the sculpt. Like he's more wrinkled and missing teeth and stuff. He looks more haggard.
It's actually, I'm glad you mentioned that's the point where I'm pretty sure it's Brian Nelson. Is his face on that model is exceptional. He's, as Justin said, he's missing teeth.
Yeah.
He has these deep crags under his eyes, and that was kind of what, when they redesigned orcs, it was that Brian Nelson's
you saw
face
the same kind of
sculpting,
yeah,
and it's those same kind of moves in him. But yeah, just another really powerful looking model, just an iconic example of a commissar and of the old man, and he's still packing a stormbolter, so he's got that going.
Of all the IG kind of leaders, commissars are really cool. I think. I just really like. like how they fit into the army. I like how they fit into the lore, and he is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and then he is the embodiment of what they could be.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And it's unfortunate. Almost think it's unfortunate because on some level, I think people tend to think of Yarick as what commissars are, and it's not. Like they're not that cool.
No.
They hold the line. They kind of keep people in check
Out of like just fear, because they will shoot you in the back if you run.
Yeah. Yarick instead kind of turns that around.
Leads from the front.
Leads from the front and rallies people
Inspires
to him
that
rather
way,
than terrifies.
right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
inspiring, not. So,
Although they're probably terrified of him too. I would be.
the dude
Dude has an orc arm.
or that he took. And I was like, give me it. Yeah.
So go on and talk about his rules a little bit.
All right. Would I field him was part of this?
Yeah.
No,
So,
I
yeah.
wouldn't.
No?
Because I don't usually field special characters. Like that one's so in general, if I'm on these talking characters, generally speaking, no. It's pretty rare that I put a special character that's not
Okay.
my own person on the board. Yarick sure would be tempting though. If I could get my an orc opponent.
If you could live up to his
Yeah,
legacy.
yeah. If you're
Let's
playing
be
against an
honest.
orc player,
if we're going to do the orc versus Gazkul thing,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you bet. You
and
bet I'll throw
that
it.
you guys have to put both those models in the middle of the table, and that combat just needs to happen, right?
No. I'm so glad you said that. So, like, I wasn't sure how I was going to work this in. So, thanks, Justin.
Perfect. I got you.
He's a pro
Years
now.
ago,
Yeah.
I went to Games Day when there was only one Games Day on the East Coast in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And at that Games Day, Andy Chambers was there, and he was doing just an open mic Q&A with people, which now I'm like, whoa, I'm surprised that didn't go riotous. And one of the things that he got asked was, so Yarick and Gazkul, will they fight? He said no. Everybody, boo, boo, boo. And he goes, why would I ever have Gazkul and Yarick fight? Gazkul would kill him.
Yeah.
People lost their mind. And he goes, Yarick's an old man.
Yeah.
Gazkul is the nastiest, meanest orc
In his prime.
in his prime.
Yeah.
He would destroy him. He would tear him apart without a second thought and barely even break stride.
Yeah.
He's like, and everybody freaked out and he goes, whoa, whoa. And this is my favorite moment. Andy Chambers goes, wait, they're my characters. I can do what I want. And carried on. Everybody was like, oh, well, yeah.
Here's the thing. I mean, it's not that Yarick would beat him in a single one-on-one combat. His whole point is that he would out-strategize him.
Right. And Gazkul, which I didn't know this until I did some looking into it, apparently Gazkul at one point captured Yarick.
Right.
Which this must have been in the Black Lair.
I think he has like some respect for
Yeah.
him, right?
And
Yep.
what he does is he keeps throwing him into these weird challenges on this orc Hulk to see what he does. And he keeps overcoming and he keeps overcoming and he causes human uprisings in the slave pits. And then like they're going to escape. And then in the end, he's like, Gazkul's got them all wiped out. And they walk Yarick out and he's standing face to face with Gazkul. And he's waiting for like, well, here we
The
go.
final
We're going to
blow,
fight.
right.
And Gazkul just steps aside and gestures to him to go take a cruiser.
Yeah.
And he does, and he hightails it back for the Third War of Armageddon, which is when they promote him to full command.
Right.
And it's clear that, without saying anything, Gazkul's like, no, this dude's a worthy opponent.
Not only that,
which
I
is,
like to fight, and this
It's
guy
only,
can
which is
bring,
only going to make him bigger.
this guy can bring the fight.
which is the end all be all for
Right.
an orc is why does everybody follow Gazkul? He looks for the biggest, baddest fight. And when he fled, all the other orcs lost his mind, and Gazkul just broke enough skulls so they went, oh, that's right, I forgot who we were dealing with.
Right.
But who we're dealing with is Yarick.
I mean, it sounds silly when if you could tell that story and have it sound really dumb, or you can tell that story and it means something.
Right.
Right.
And without
if
all-
Aaron Dembski Bowden wrote that story, you'd be like, that was awesome.
Right.
Right. If I wrote that story, you'd be like, Carl's a doofus.
Yeah, I was worried to even kind of bring that bit up because when I read it on a synopsis and I was like, wow, that really sounds kind of lame. Like,
But it's not when you think
right,
about it.
because of all the knowledge of like,
Right.
what these two characters, how much
It's that
they've
mutual
bounced
respect
off
that
of
Right.
each other.
They've,
Right.
they've gained from each other. Yeah.
So rules wise, how does Yarick get this across? Unfortunately, I would say right now he doesn't. His rules right now just aren't quite there, I don't feel like. So he's always had a rule. He has all the normal commissar stuff of like summary execution, only a certain number of people can run away, and he gives a bonus to leadership, and he does the usual things. He has an iron will, and that's if you kill him, you roll a die, and on a 3-up, he doesn't die. He gets a wound back, and he keeps on going. So that's kind of cool. I mean, that's very Yarick. He has a power field, which
If you roll like Justin, he's just dead.
Yeah, maybe. He has a 4-up invul save versus the normal 5. Now, this
Not
is
bad.
his power field, and this to go back to bring it back to the historical view, that is a sad power field.
Like a refractor field kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's a 4-up. It's like, oh, yeah. He used to have this power field that anytime you hit him, you rolled a d6 and you subtracted that from the strength of the weapon.
Oh, okay.
And then he had an invul save after that.
Got it.
So I liked that one a little better. It was a little more, I don't know, themey of it. He had this super weird tech. Anyway, but he has a 4-up invul save. He also is the hero of Hades Hive. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for Astra Militarum within 6 inches of him.
Yep.
And you can reroll.
He's like a captain.
Yeah, and then you can reroll. So it's in shooting. You can reroll once, but anytime they're fighting orcs, you can reroll all reroll.
Oh, so all failed,
all ones,
all misses,
all failed. Yeah, all
gotcha,
misses.
gotcha.
So if he's there and they're within 6 inches, anything that fails, they reroll. Otherwise, it's reroll ones. So he inspires his men. He's okay. Points wise, as I recall, he wasn't terribly expensive. But for as big a deal hero as he is, that I mean,
but in a narrative game against orcs, he'd be fun to play.
Yeah. And as a space, like with the guy that Space Marines are deferring their leadership to and stuff, I don't know if he quite lives up to that level of cool.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
All right, Justin.
Cypher's kind of a letdown.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. He's you read a guy's lore like that, and man, like, how is this guy not able to, like, move, shoot, and then move again? And where's that Catan knife? Like, maybe in combat on a 5 or a 6, it warps into existence, and he can use a Catan knife.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
No invul.
Yeah, like, just not good. Like, he's got his pistols are decent. He's got like 3 shots with the bolt pistol at like range 16. His plasma pistol though is only 12-inch range.
Yeah,
which I think should have been 16 as well.
Yeah,
he
it would make more sense.
Keep more at distance. Would have liked to have seen some kind of, like, since when Cypher gets in the area, morale just gets weird and everybody's like, who is this guy? And everybody's confused.
Right.
Maybe make the enemy army lose some command points or something just from that discord that he causes.
Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting. Yeah.
Just funky.
That's actually a cool idea.
Funky rules like that, like where he disrupts your army and maybe even like makes your warlord -1 morale or something.
That'd be interesting.
Just stuff like that.
But nothing.
But as
like
it is, he's just kind of a real kind of lackluster gunslinger.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Captain Lysander is a captain. So units around him are re-rolling hit rolls made of 1 within 6 inches. He's in Terminator armor, so he has teleport strike. He has Iron Halo and Storm Shield, so he has a 3+ invuln save. And he has the Icon of Obstinacy, which adds 1 to the leadership of friendly Imperial Fist units within 6 inches of him. Where he really shines, though, is, man, if you like Thunderhammer, Storm Shield, Terminators, this is your guy. He has
Bulk smash.
2+ weapon skill, strength 4, but he's wielding the Fist of Dorn, which is awesome. It is a Thunderhammer with there's no minus for him swinging it.
Nice.
It has +1. So it's doing its standard 3 wounds of a Thunderhammer. Has 6 wounds himself. He has a normal 2-up save. So I mean, he really is. I don't think he's like the end all be all of captains out there, but with Imperial Fists, you team him up with some Thunderhammer, Storm Shield Terminators, or with a couple Lightning Claws in there. I mean, this guy's gonna wreck house. There's no doubt about it. He's, as far as power level go, he's 8 power level, so he's not crazy pricey. I mean, he does his job, but he'll slaughter stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I like him. Would I field him again? Probably. If I were running Imperial Fist army, yeah.
Back to that rule of cool, right? That model is like
how do you not field that model?
And
leading like 10 Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators,
for sure. And not only that, like, I love Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators. I mean, even when I was running my Ultramarines, that was like, we've been trying to convince Austin, no, the Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators are pretty awesome. I set him back. And he keeps rolling terrible with them. But and I think his Hellblasters are doing just fine. So but I mean, you stick them with this guy, it's a fun delivery system. So I love him. And that model just blows my mind. So as far as supplements that he's in, I mean, he has been in every Space Marine supplement that has really come out. And so 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition, 6th edition, now 8th edition. He was in the Index. He's been in the Sentinels of Teras supplement in 6th edition. He's kind of been in everything. White Dwarf 302 did a Heroes of the Imperium overview of him, which is actually quite extensive. If you read it, it's pretty great. So he's been around for a long time. I think I'm curious to see what's happened to him or become of him now, or what they do with him. Primaris-sized, maybe. I don't know. I'd feel sad if he left his awesome Terminator armor behind, though. So we'll see what happens.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll be the first Primaris Terminator model.
How
so
cool of
great.
I can't even think of what they're called. The super heavy shooter guys.
Aggressors?
Yeah, aggressors.
Yeah.
Kind of fit in that role too. He'd be kind
Yeah,
of interesting.
I mean, it's-
Aggressor captain. Some new thing like that would be pretty amazing.
Pretty sexy.
So anyway, Justin, let's go to you.
Cypher's been around the block a little bit as far as different random books here and there.
Yeah.
I believe it was 3rd edition where he got introduced in the 3rd edition Chaos book.
Yep.
Yeah, it was 3rd edition. That's crazy. And then since then, he's shown up in random books as far as like lore is concerned. He was in the Dark Angels 6th edition
Codex.
Yeah. You can't really talk about
obviously the 8th edition one too.
Yep, the Rise of the Primarch.
Yeah.
Yep, where he still had horrible rules, but we're
That
getting
was 7th ed. Well, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, 7th edition. And then he's an index choice right now. He's been resigned to an index choice. So maybe one day.
He's in the Dark Angels Codex for 8th edition.
Oh, is he now?
Right now, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I might do a little redaction then.
So.
Yeah, there we go. And that's pretty much it.
Which I think kind of solidifies the Dark Angels either as one, a Chaos Codex, or two, he's a loyalist.
Right. He always shows up in their book, but I still love that his first appearance was in a Chaos Codex.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that,
Like,
right?
well, let's really screw this whole thing up.
Yeah.
Like, where
I
is
think
he?
that makes him, well, and this is, I think, why he was a controversial choice when Justin brought him up, but I think you made the right choice. I think he is a hero of the Imperium in my mind.
Well, and I ran the same thing with Luft Huron.
Yeah.
I debated doing Luft Huron.
That's a tough one.
Maybe we'll save him for another show.
Yeah.
There you go.
And Jody.
Yeah, Yarick. He's been in the Guards since they started doing codexes. So the second ed codex, he has some rules there up until current day now, and everything in between. Anytime they've done an Armageddon codex, he's been featured in that, of course. He's also had a number of appearances in White Dwarf with various special mission rules and things along the way, going back as far as 152. So he is about as early days as when
you get.
named
He is
characters.
OG.
Yeah, he's one of the original heroes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Black Library examples of Lysander. He's been in Endeavor of Will, which was a novella by Ben Counter. Lysander, The Fist of Dorn, a short story by Anthony Reynolds. Sons of Dorn, pretty much anything around Imperial
Anything
Fist.
Dornish.
Yeah. Hellforged by Ben Counter. Ben Counter wrote about him quite a bit. Phalanx by Ben Counter, and Seventh Retribution by Ben Counter. He did have, I think Phalanx, if I remember correctly, is one of the, what were they called? The guys with Sarpedon and the Spider Lake guys, the Soul Drinkers
Soul Drinkers, yeah.
series. I think that is close to the end of the Soul Drinker series, and Lysander has a part in that where they have the Soul Drinkers on the Phalanx. So, for a series, just as a side note, Soul Drinkers Omnibus was one of the first books I bought at 40K books because there weren't that many back then.
Right.
And I read it, and I was kind of like, parts of this are kind of pretty hokey. And then, but by the time that series gets to its conclusion, it actually has a pretty good conclusion. So, for some pretty goofy stuff early on.
Well, it's kind of classic.
But hey, look, as much as I like Graham McNeil's stuff, he also wrote about the evil choo-choo train going through chaos. So,
Jeez.
coming and capturing a guy.
Oh, yikes.
Anyway, Justin, what about Cypher? Where is he showing up? Black Library
Enigmatic
wise?
Cypher. He's shown up in Fallen Angels by Mike Lee, chapter 18.
You've got like that specific chapter.
And then he's shown up in Malediction, which is an audiobook. I'll definitely have to check that one out because after doing some research on this character, I got I just need to know.
Actually, I'm interested in that one too,
as much as I can about this guy. And then Unforgiven, which is a novel.
Okay.
Angels of Caliban, which is a novel, chapter 33. So again, these little strike hard, strike fast within a chapter or two in a book.
Of him, or it's a mention of him or something, right?
Yeah.
Like Where's Waldo of Space Marines?
Yeah. And then Descent of Angels, he's hinted at as well.
Right. Well, yeah. So Jody.
Let me see. Yorick, again, we've got an omnibus for him. Let me see. David Annandale did a series of him. Aaron Debsky Bowden did Hell's Reach, which actually
He sure did.
I am not much of a Black Library reader. I know.
Have you read it?
No, but that after talking to you last weekend about all things Black Library,
It's an audio drama. It's actually one of the great audio dramas too,
yeah.
not audio drama, audio book. Like it's just really read well.
and I do have some credits I can use. So yeah, that's actually jumped up to my piquing my interest for Black Library.
I think that's in the top list of what people should read.
Okay.
Yep.
Gunheads by Steve Parker and Survivor by Steve Parker, which is a short story. Another interesting thing here, I think, is the Yorick Omnibus is actually a collection of not only... It's a lot of short stories as well. It's not just novels. So it's one of those blended situations. So yeah, quite a bit of Black Library but for such an iconic character, I don't know if that's terribly
Interesting thing about
surprising.
Steve Parker's writing too is that I didn't realize he was a writer until I read his Death Watch stuff. And then I realized, he had a bunch of other smaller things. I mean, they would used to introduce writers through Imperial Guard stories first before they let them tackle Space Marine stuff.
Makes sense.
And then he kind of dropped off for a while. I know he lives in Japan. And he's big into weightlifting and stuff. He's one of the writers. I was like, he looks like a Space Marine. He's huge.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
But now Death Watch 2 is finally coming out. He's kind of come back to writing again. So I'm excited to see where that goes. So if we're talking about favorite stories, either from Black Library, Codex, supplements, whatever, with this guy, my one for Lysander has to be where he's on a ship known as the Shield of Valor, which kind of disappears into the warp and shows back up nearly 1,000 years later. So who knows how long it was gone to him, but clearly not long enough for him to lose any of his vigor and vitality, because it comes back into normal space and near an Iron Warrior stronghold near the fringe of the Eye of Terror, and it gets kind of brought down by these orbital fortresses. And there's a handful of survivors, Lysander's among them, that get incarcerated and are subject to weeks of torture at the hands of the Iron Hands or Iron Warriors.
That's what we do.
Yeah. Well, they torture him, and then he's able to survive just through his sheer dauntless will. Right? He remains unbroken. But within a month of his capture, even though he's bloodied and he's been tortured and everything, he breaks free of his restraints and unarmored, initially with no weapons but his bare hands, he just wreaks this bloody path through the streets of Maladrax's planetary capital until he gets in a shuttle and escapes from the city. And I mean, I'm just saying. That's
you
badass.
survive a month of Iron Warrior's torture,
and then break free and escape.
Yep.
After killing a bunch of guys,
you're officially you're in
badass
that
realm.
Camp of Sly Marbo.
Yeah, you're in badass
Badass
realm. Now,
camp,
I
yep.
mean, now at the same time, as much as I love this story, and it's like, oh wow, what an awesome guy. When you compare, and this is where I struggle a bit, when you compare the writing of a Forge World story of Colm to a story like that story would not be written about in a Forge World book.
Right.
It's almost heroic.
Too easy, kind of.
It's almost heroic on a scale of the Iliad and the Odyssey, Homer, and that kind of thing. Whereas when you're reading the Forge World stuff, it's more gritty in the mud and muck and the dirty. And I don't know. There's a difference in that writing style. And I see what they're going for in the Codex. That's still a cool story. I mean, no doubt. But this is why you can't make a comparable story for Colm. You can't be like, Colm is, he tore a bloody path, with just one hand because his other one was, chopped off, and he killed all these Dark Eldar, with his tongue, and then you're never gonna get a story like that out of Forge World. You get a grittier, more horrific story out of Forge World, which is what appealed to me about that.
Yeah, this month's Wartdorf, actually, one of the designers touched on that very idea of the different sources telling a tapestry and a richness of a world that couldn't be done by just one source.
Agreed.
That, the snippets do one thing.
Yeah.
The black libraries do something else. The codexes do something else. The novels, like each one serves its own sort of thread into the greater tapestry. So, yeah, absolutely.
So that's my Lysander story that I thought was the best so far. What about you, Justin?
So one of my favorites with Cypher, this guy is kind of funny because he likes to appear on battlefields involving the Sons of the Lion.
Right.
And in a way where he's not like appearing right amongst their ranks, like, making it easy on them, but he'll like wait till a battle's like at its crux, and kind of intervene in some way. And of course the Dark Angels are like, get him, and then he just disappears. It's almost like he's kind of like, neener, you can't get me. So I like that. But basically, in this battle, the Dark Angels, they actually sent the entirety of their chapter was deployed in this to basically cut the head off this big Wa.
Okay.
And the Orc war boss Zogax the Great. That's such a great name. Zogax the Great. Basically, they tried to go in, cut his head off, but they tried to teleport all these Deathwing Terminators in.
As you do.
As you do. With the chapter master, Aloken. But, of course, the war boss had some kind of flux capacitor to shunt them off, right?
As one does.
Jamming device.
Yep. So, basically, he eventually gets to him, and... but not with as much forces as he wanted to have. And there's this big battle between him and the war boss. The chapter master ends up getting cut down and just slaughtered, basically. And Cypher shows up, and as he's going to like pick up, because he's got the lion helm and all the gear on, he's going to pick it up, and all of a sudden, his hand is just annihilated by a plasma gun blast.
Nice.
By a plasma blast. The Orc war boss.
Oh, the Orc war boss.
Gets his hand just shot right off, And then Cypher appears, out of nowhere.
He's like blowing the smoke out of his plasma gun.
Yep. And he basically, like, in so much time, lands like 4 bolter shells, like 2 in his good eye and 2 in his bionic eye, and pulps the big chunk of this orc's brain. But orcs are orcs, so he's fighting with like a fraction of his brain, and he starts battling Cypher, and eventually just collapses and dies, and Cypher finishes him off, drags away the chapter master into like a ditch, and takes all the gear away from him, and to preserve it, I guess, and then just disappears. Of course, the Dark Angels are all firing at him, trying to take him out, but he just takes off and disappears, eventually returning the items back to the Dark Angels.
Nice.
So
that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So
he's totally Imperial.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
And then the world burned.
Totally
and, he probably could. He
misunderstood.
He probably could have showed up earlier, assassinated the Orc war boss, so the chapter master wasn't killed. But who knows?
Maybe he couldn't have.
Maybe he couldn't have.
Who knows?
Maybe he got that email a bit late.
I think he had a dentist appointment.
Cypher has phenomenal.
And Jody, let's bring us home.
All right. Well, I've been alluding to it the whole time. The greatest scene of Yarick is the story of him getting his bionic arm. It's the Second War of Armageddon. Basically, because von Straub has so grossly mismanaged the planet's defenses, once Gaskell hits the planet, he's just rolling through things. Yarick saw this problem in advance and starts immediately garrisoning Hades' hive, trying to hold out as long as possible. The orcs are surging forward, and another great orc name, Ugelhard's war boss Ugelhard, yeah, is spearheading the final assault to break the gates of Hades' hive.
Like his less astute cousin Ugelsoft.
Yeah, you can't have that. Oh, no wonder he didn't rise up very far in the orc ranks.
The Orc Me Too movement.
Ouch. So the gates are about to fall.
Are you Oogling me?
I'm not Oogling anything but this story.
Okay, continue.
I'm Oogling some orcs. All right. So yeah, the gates break, and Yarick literally runs to the front to face down this orc it's Orc War Boss, and this is an old man. The Orc just smacks him aside, rips his arm off, casts him down. The Orc begins to howl in celebration, at which point Yarick pulls his chainsword from his hip, jumps up, and cuts the Orc's head off.
Yep.
Calmly reaches down, picks up the power claw from the Orc's twitching body, cries out loud, and then charges forward with his men into the battle once more. This holds out just enough time for the Marines to show up and begin to bail them out. And as the Orc forces repel and it breaks their spearhead, they're also being outflanked by the Marines. And this effectively, Gaskell had overextended. It breaks his entire battle line.
Mm-hmm.
And the line, I think much like us at this late hour, says... Only when the Orcs had been fully beaten from Hades did Yarick allow himself the luxury of passing out.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
So, yeah, that moment's iconic.
Well, fantastic. I think that brings us to our first and second round picks. Next time.
This is fun to delve into a character,
I think it's kind of cool. I think next time we're going to, look at potentially Xenos or Chaos, and we'll talk about who they hold up as icons of
nastiness
and Xenos.
Yeah, for
Xenosness.
Sure. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back and close out the show.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we are now here talking with Teras from Geek Nation Tours. How are you doing, Teras?
Awesome, very good indeed.
We have not talked in quite a while, actually. You've been busy. I've been busy. You're going to Adepticon, though. You clearly got your Adepticon tour going on, right?
Yeah, it's actually sold out. We did really good this year. We're gonna have 42 people.
Wow. I bet I know why it sold out. Did you get early access to the? Were you guys included in the drawing for the
No.
VIG? Or do you guys get the VIG if I sign up with you? Oh, I should have signed up with you. Matt Weeks gave me a call. He goes, "You want to know where you are on the wait list?" I go, "Sure." He goes, "Number 532." I go, "I guess I'm not getting the VIG badge."
Oh.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I actually really like the way they did it this year. I know a lot of people didn't, but the reality was it was a drawing anyway. It was just, did your connection hold up while you were trying to connect to their servers?
Right. Yeah, and I you know what? I think that's, if I was going to complain about anything, not Gen Con, just Adepticon or Gen Con or anybody in particular, just about how that process works in general, because people that are closer to their server get a better chance at getting in there faster. I know,
probably, yeah. I mean, I'm in California from Chicago, so I'm a good distance away, and I never had a problem. Like everybody else seemed to have a. But you know what? I went to great lengths to make sure I was ready. Like the minute it opened, I was clicking. Like
you got to click, and when there's a lot of people trying to grab small spots, I think those draws are a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think what they should do is they should take everybody, pool everybody, say, okay, it is now open. It's going to be open over this certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And then, I may sound pretty ignorant here, actually. How do you? So you apply for the
that's
VIG,
exactly how they did
and
it.
then pick your stuff.
No. So what they did was they said, okay, registrations for VIG from this time to this time get included in the drawing, and it was a pretty wide window. I think it was like 6 hours or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, you had a significant amount of time to sign up for that drawing, and then they were randomly picked from that drawing. They have like the entire methodology for how they did it on the site, because they knew as gamers people were going to look heavily at how they did this and was it fair. And you know what? I didn't get one this year. I've gotten one every year up till now. I'm not put out by it. It's just one of those things that, sometimes you get it, sometimes and I'm happy that somebody else gets an opportunity to get it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, and from what you just said, that's exactly what I wanted them to do anyway. So that's perfect.
Yeah, so you nailed it.
It just allows people to have an opportunity to do it. Yeah. It's like going to the table and knowing that before the game starts, you're not going to win because it's all in the build.
Right.
That sucks.
Right. Go in with the thought that you're not going to get it, and then if you get it, you're happy. That's the way I do it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So the reason I wanted you to come on, and we have you come on the show every now and then, was you have some interesting events coming up. Aside from Adepticon, which is sold out, and you couldn't get into that now if you wanted to. You do have additional things coming up. What's going on with Geek Nation Tours right now?
Yeah, we're really, really excited. It's an exciting time for us. We have now partnered with getting tours out with Osprey Publishing and Osprey Games.
Interesting. Why them? Like, why? How is that a good partnership? Explain that to me.
Okay, so what happens is that, of course, when we go on a tour, I always like to get as many perspectives on the tour as possible, but also give people a good historical outlook on what actually happened there, right? And in order to do that, I often hire local guides, right? And Japan's difficult because not always do you get a good person that speaks English really, really well, like I'm foulling up right now, but you don't always get top quality people.
Understood.
So Osprey and we got together, and now I get to choose from their vast sources of authors who might be willing to come on the tour with us and explain what happened at the event.
Oh, that's interesting. I think I've talked about this on the show before, but one of my most memorable times in the Army was walking the area where the Battle of Bulge took place, and we had an author of a book about the Battle of Bulge kind of walking us through. Imagine, these tanks coming from here, and this is what happened here, and it was really helped you get into understanding, why this was an important area, and that sounds like a great marriage actually between you and Osprey.
Yeah, and imagine that. Like, we're going to, of course, be on the Battle of Sekigahara, for instance. Let's talk about the Samurai Tour, because that's one that I'm really excited about. And one that a lot of people have heard about. So Sekigahara, in October of this year, we're going to go to the Sekigahara battlefield reenactment, or it's actually more of a dramatization. And the Sekigahara basically festival. Okay. So you get to see samurai people walking around, right? But we're actually walking the battlefield at that time. So Stephen Turnbull, and if you've read anything about samurai or samurai ethics or samurai religion, you've probably read a Stephen Turnbull book.
Got it. Okay.
So he's going to be on the battlefield with us and doing exactly what you said. He's going to say, okay, listen, this is what happened during the battle. This was the exchange. This is why Toranaga is a good guy and Shogun or Tokugawa Ieyasu is in his proper name, I guess, is considered the good guy. This is why he's considered the bad guy. This is what he did well. The battle was won here, and that kind of thing. So he's going to do that exactly what you're saying.
Interesting.
But also, he's going to be with us for every aspect of the tour. So when we walk the Nakasendo Highway, which is when samurai used to walk from place to place to get to Edo to pay tribute and taxes and that kind of thing, we walk that walk. So we're walking in the footsteps of samurai. But he's also going to say, see that moss-covered rock over there? That's actually a Buddhist temple. Or a Buddhist shrine. And this is why that's important. So he's going to be with us all the way through. He's going to be sitting in the onsen with you saying, why you're in the hot bath and why this is important. Of course, some of our female listeners won't be there for that one, but maybe he'll tell them later. So at all aspects, we're going to talk about the food and everything. So not only, it's like going on your Battle of the Bulge, but then going to all the restaurants and everything else, and him still being there and explaining what the significance of everything is.
Yeah, how interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, and what other tours do you have coming up?
So another one that we're going to be partnering with Osprey with is our Gladiator tour to Italy. That happens in 2020. So Sekigahara 2019, Gladiators 2020.
Wow, so you're looking already that far in advance.
Yeah, exactly. And this is with Daniele Boelli from A History on Fire. I'm going to plug his podcast for a little bit. Yeah, have you heard his?
Yes,
podcast?
I have. Yeah.
Okay, so he's an amazing guy. He always talks about the epic and the epic struggles of humanity and why this battle happened. So he's going to be on the tour, and he loves. Of course, he's from Italy. He's going to bring us around Pompeii and go to all the gladiator spots, all the gladiator arenas that are still standing, and tell us about gladiators all the way through.
Interesting.
So that's an Italy one. So that's going to be just as and exactly the same thing. Always with us, always telling us why it's important, why it's cool. Drinking wine with us at night, talking about Caravaggio, why he loves that art, and just that kind of thing. And so those are the two Osprey ones that I have. Also, Osprey sends those people that book. They send out books prior, so you'll be getting some of their Osprey books.
Very cool.
You'll be able to read.
That's a good
you'll
idea.
be able to read prior.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so you'll be kind of knowledgeable about it, and then you're just going to get more at the time.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that's that. Those are the two big ones, the two historical ones, and then I got a kind of a fun one also going on, also in 2020. It's going to happen in February of 2020. So this is our Frostgrave Immersion Tour, and we're going to Estonia, Tallinn, Estonia.
Okay.
You know why?
Why?
Thank you. I was hoping you'd ask.
Why would you go there?
Estonia is in the Baltics, and Joe, the writer, the designer of Frostgrave, had the game all written, but he didn't have a setting, and he just needed to escape in winter to somewhere with his wife. And they ended up in Estonia because it's cheap to get to the Baltics from the UK.
Okay.
And when he got there, he realized, oh my God, it's winter, and it was just this medieval city in winter.
Yeah, a lot of stone.
Right, exactly, and that's how he got the whole idea for the setting of Frostgrave.
Huh. That's interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to go. We're going to game. He's coming on the tour. So this is, of course, partnering with Osprey Games at this point. He's coming on the tour. He's going to come to this place where it's cold, and we're going to go out into the swamp, and we're going to go into castles and take a look at towers. And there's going to be living history people with us, walking with us at the tour, and we're and then we're going to play Frostgrave all the way through it too.
Oh, that's cool. How much? I mean, other than the visuals of the city, did he pull in any of the narratives from the city into his background, or was it primarily the inspiration for it? You know what I'm saying?
It was more the inspiration, but of course, there's always room for that. Actually, you know what is so funny? Because when we're in there, he's going to write a new scenario for us for each time we do. So we're going to go through to the bog. So we're going to go to the Viru bog, and he's going to write one about the Viru bog, and that's what's going to happen that day with Frostgrave game.
Oh, that is really cool. That's very cool. That's very cool. I know you're a huge Frostgrave fan. So yeah. So how much of this did you set up just for yourself? Don't lie.
A lot. A lot.
That does sound very fascinating, though.
Yeah, and a small tour.
Yeah,
it's 15 people only.
Oh, interesting.
So really, really small, tight group who's got a really very intense fan base for this particular game, and so that's what I'm trying to do. Those are the type of new tours that we're trying to make. It's this really, really small group that really, really love a particular thing. Very cool. And in Frostgrave one, there's an extension that we go to St. Petersburg too.
Oh, interesting. You're not going to go to a tropical island where they did the
where that may be coming. It will also be a 15. I will not deny or confirm this said tour that you were talking about.
Very cool. Very cool. So also you do RPG tours. You have one coming up.
Yeah.
It's kind of separate from Gen Con. Tell me what you got going on there.
Yeah. So as a lot of people know, I'm a big fan of RPGs. That's actually part of the reason why I love Frostgrave. But that's how I started in this hobby. Started being a geek through Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, and so I decided I really wanted to do a Dungeons and Dragons RPG type of game, and so type of tour, and so I decided that we'd go to Lake Geneva. So we're going to go to Lake Geneva. That's where Dungeons and Dragons was written.
Yep.
And so, and over the years, I've kind of had a contact with Ernie Gygax, so Gary Gygax's son, and I wanted to work with him for some time.
He played Tensor? Bigby. No, Tensor. Like one of the characters that like spells are named after was one of his characters. Right. I think it's Tensor.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Tensor. Yeah. So
I know my D&D geekology.
There you go. And he was like one of the first people to play D&D.
Interesting.
Right?
Okay. Yeah, of course.
Because Gary, tested it out on his kids first, right? So, so this one again is also a special one to me. Also, 15 people only. Okay.
Yeah.
So this one first of all we're going to play. Ernie's going to be there running our group through various scenarios. He was going to do it on a big one. He's going to do the Tomb of Horrors, for instance. Everybody will die probably at the end of that one, and he's going to. That's one of the best known modules that Gary Gygax did. Of course,
interesting.
Okay. And while you do that, of course, you're going to get your Gary Gygax number of 2. And so a Gary Gygax number, I don't know if anybody knows about that, but do you know what that is?
I don't.
Okay. So a Gary Gygax number, if you have a Gary Gygax number of 1, that means you played with Gary Gygax.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right? So if you played with somebody that played with Gary Gygax, you get a Gary Gygax number of 2.
2 degrees of Gary Gygax is what you're saying.
What's that?
It's 2 degrees of Gary Gygax.
That's exactly it, right?
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so everyone on the tour is going to have a Gygax number of 2, basically, is what it's going to come down to. So that's one of the cool things that it's going to happen. And we also contacted the people that own his house where it was written, and we're going to be gaming in his house.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah, if you are into the D&D history or anything like that is a pretty epic. I have a friend, actually, I'm going to point to this right now. Actually.
Yeah. And not only that, we're going to game in the Horticultural Hall where the first Gen Con was.
Right. Which, I just recently read a book about Gary Gygax and the creation of Dungeons and Dragons and all that. So it, I recognize like all these places you're talking about and such.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which one?
I'm trying to think of the name of it. It just came out a little while ago. It was kind of told
Empire of the Imagination.
Yes, that's it. The one it's kind of told from his perspective, but not written by him. Right. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good book.
It left out some significant things, but
Of course it does. Yeah, it sure does. If you're researching anything, you got to take everybody's perspective with a grain of salt. As a matter of fact, I think that's even more important in our world today of misinformation. So I think you got to have critical thought. So, but anyway, no, that is a good book. I do recommend reading that one. Actually, it's part of my research. I read that because of my research, and it pointed out a lot of the places to go. So I took that book and kind of made it into a tour. So we're going to
that's really cool.
We're going to tour Lake Geneva. We're going to take a look at all these places. And then every night we're going to get together and we're going to game.
Wow.
So, yeah. And 15 people. So I'm going to be there, and I'm actually not going to be leading this one. Ian from the Nerd Herders is going to be leading it.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and I'm going to be playing. And I actually am going to cook for everybody the first night. I'm going to cook steaks for everybody the first night. We're going to hang out and play. First night, we're going to go to the Gygax home and create our characters right there.
Very, very cool. That is, wow, what like walking in the footsteps of giants there.
Yeah. You know, and that's really where our kind of company is going is now just saying, okay, let's go all out, geek. We're not going to go half measures anymore. We're going to
Gotcha.
go all out.
So what do you have going for Gen Con? Gen Con is one of these events that, last year I think it was at Adepticon, I was saying to myself, well, I'm going to skip Adepticon in 2019. I'm going to go to Gen Con instead. And the more I started talking to my friends who go there, the more I was like, geez, this just sounds really too big and unwieldy. I think I was also kind of regretting that promise because I really enjoy Adepticon. Like, how do you manage something in such a huge environment like that?
Yeah, it is big. It is big. And what we do is we always get together at night. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's kind of see at Adepticon we all get together at night also, right? It's not like I say, okay, you know what, I'm going to plan. There is one day that I have a painting thing at Adepticon, and so we do that. So there's one day on Thursday, but for the most part, we don't see each other through the day because I want people to geek out as much as possible.
Sure, right?
Do their own thing, right? But Adepticon is a little bit harder because there's events all the way through the night, and many events and very many tempting events all the way through the night.
Right.
So I do have things that we do every night, and some of them are really cool. This year we're going to partner with Chaosium.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, Chaosium. Yep.
And so we're going to
one of my favorite games of all time, by the way, Call of Cthulhu. So
yeah, exactly. And what we're going to do is we're going to partner with them. It is an awesome game. I played it with my daughter and my wife last year at Gen Con. So really enamored by it. It was actually the first time I ever played it. So that's cool that you say it's one of your favorites. Oh, yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's a great game.
It was incredible. Yeah. And my daughter ended up almost dying and then saving the day. So it was a perfect game for me in a lot of ways. But anyway, they're gonna put an event, a Cthulhu event, and then we're gonna have Cthulhu type of gaming all the way through. Now, it's 60,000 people or so, so it's a big event.
Right.
But I don't know if that should frighten people because it's not like you have to deal with 60,000 people all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you go and play a game, there's still 6 people playing than whatever, a 6-player game.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the seminars, the gaming is not, it doesn't have that huge feel that you think it might. It's not like you're competing with all these people. There are a couple of big game rooms, there are a couple of gaming rooms that are large.
Yeah.
And so they get a little bit loud.
Yeah.
Right? But again, you're still gaming with 6 people. You know what I mean? Or 5 people, or a 4-player game. There's 4 people. So now, are there crowds? Do you have to weave in and out? Is it like a football game? Sometimes.
It wasn't so much that was the issue for me. It was daunting. I mean, getting a hotel or a place to stay was daunting. Like, the whole thing became this ordeal where I was like, I think if I were to do this, I would do it through something like Geek Nation Tours, where all that gets taken care of for me and I don't have to worry about it.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, I pick you up at the airport. I bring you to the hotel. You don't have to worry about getting your hotel. You don't have to worry about getting your passes. What you do have to worry about is what we were just talking about at Adepticon. You have to sign up for things. So sometimes you don't get exactly what you want.
Of course, but that's completely out of control, right? Out of your control. There's no way. Yeah.
And there's so much to do. Like, cool. Let's just say something that has never happened to me or any of my guys before. You don't get anything that you want to do, and then you don't find anything else that you want to do. Okay. Let's just say that happens.
You'd have to try to not find something you want to do. I mean that. Yeah.
It's never happened to me before, but let's just say, for argument's sake, that's what happens.
Okay.
You go to Gen Con, you don't have anything to do. There's still tons to do. I mean, you can spend 2 days alone, 3 days alone, just in the massive vendor hall.
Yeah.
And it's fun. There's lots of people in there, but you stop at a booth and you can talk to people for hours.
Yeah.
It's a fun time.
That's what I'm saying. And there's always something to do.
It's big. So
yeah.
There's crowds.
Yeah.
There's crowds.
No doubt.
I'm not going to, for sure. There's 60,000 people there. It's a football game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's that you will always find something to do, and I will help you through all that whole process. I mean, that's what we do.
Well, that sounds fantastic.
Right.
I may take you up on that
that's-
in 2020. It's not going to happen this year. I got a kid graduating high school and trips to take as a result of that and all that. But I am definitely interested in going. It just, when I started to look at it myself, I was like, you know what, this is not worth my effort when I can go to.
Yeah.
But if I were to go through you, it would certainly make it a lot easier. So where does everybody go to find out how to sign up for these trips, how it all works? Where can they go?
You go to geeknationtours.com, or you just email me directly, headgeek@geeknationtours.com.
Perfect. I will make sure there is a link in our show notes this go around for you. And
awesome. Thank you, sir.
Teras, you've always been a wonderful guest. I appreciate you joining us, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at Adepticon this year.
Yeah, we got to hang out maybe sometime Saturday night after everything goes down.
That would be awesome.
Chilling.
Yeah, I mean,
out in the lobby or something like that.
Yeah, I would love it. One night, and I don't remember which night it is. It might be Friday night. I am running Call of Cthulhu, so I will not be able to that night. Yeah.
I would have totally signed up for that. Are you full?
We are, but you know what? We could figure something out. Maybe I can run it again. So if we get enough people interested, maybe I'll run it a second time. But I shouldn't. I shouldn't have said that because I'm about to get a ton of.
Oh no! Now everybody's like, "Yeah, that's right. If Teras is in, you better get me."
Yeah. So,
and of course, are you gonna? You don't have to answer yes or no, but you know that you're still invited to our podcasters' night out on Thursday.
Well,
right?
thank you very much. I have to see what I have in conflict. I have to look at my schedule.
Yep.
But I would absolutely love to come if that's always a really fun event to go to. So. I'll let you know.
And of course, this year. Sorry, I cut you off.
No. Please, please go ahead.
Okay. And we're actually going to the Bahama Breeze, so we're going out for Jamaican food that night.
Oh, you're changing it up a bit.
Yeah, we're changing it up.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, I'll let you know soon.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
awesome.
Thank you so much, Teras. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much. It was awesome. Always a pleasure.
Hey guys, I'm Caleb.
And this is Kat.
And we are CK Studios. We want to invite you and your friends to come paint with us at one of our exciting and fun-filled airbrush and hobby weekenders. Our weekend workshops are 2 days of intense hands-on training, working directly with and learning from some of the top gaming artists in the industry.
Whether you're brand new to miniature painting or an experienced veteran that wants to up your game, CK Studios has the workshop for you. Our workshops cover everything from learning the basics and building confidence in airbrushing, all the way up to creating that centerpiece model for your army or display case.
For more class info and our upcoming schedule, you can find us on Facebook at CK Studios Come Paint With Us, or register directly at ckstudios.bigcartel.com.
If you can't find a class near you, that's okay. Just contact us and we'll bring a workshop to you.
All right, so thank you for joining us for episode 182 of the Independent Characters. Again, I just want to say thanks to Games Workshop for donating all that stuff to the fire victims. Thanks for Table War for donating a tremendous amount of stuff to the fire victims, the cases, the mats, the dice and things you threw in.
And thank you to our
there.
community for chipping in.
Yep. Yeah. And thank you to Crystal Fortress for donating their stuff. Check out all of these, our sponsor stuff by going to their website. Their links are in our show notes. Mm-hmm. But, in particular, I mean, Games Workshop is a fairly large entity. They're doing well financially, clearly, as we all know now. But when you talk about guys like Doug and Todd at Table War and the guys running Crystal Fortress, I mean, these are small companies, and for them to give up this stuff, I think says a lot. And for you listeners to give up stuff and send it, the amount of donations was tremendous, and let me tell you, it was very well received by the folks that got it. So,
it's really cool to see those pictures coming in with them with the loot.
There's like I said before, there's so many cases where people are like, oh, my car got broken into and my stuff got stolen. I'm like, stop leaving your stuff in your car. Like this is this
is different.
We've seen that story repeated time and time again, and it sucks, and I get it, and I've helped donate stuff towards people that had that occur. Now I'm kind of like, stop leaving the stuff in the car. We all know that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
But this was like
whole another level.
Yeah, they had no options here. Right. So I think you've made a lot of people really happy, and thank you so much. yeah, if you have any thoughts about this show, I mean, this is the first in this series we want to do. I think it was kind of fun. I think it'll spark a little bit of discussion, that kind of thing, on our Facebook group. Let
People
us
can
know.
tell us how wrong we are.
Yeah, who
That's
did
okay.
we miss? I mean, there's a lot of Heroes of the Imperium.
And we will probably address some of those at a later date too.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a great topic because we can kind of come back to it a few times, and it takes us a little bit of research to do, but it's fun research, and we learn a few things. Like Cypher's a really good guy.
Is he though?
So yeah, leave us reviews on iTunes, on Facebook if you like what you're hearing. If you don't like what you're hearing, let us know and tell us, what you think we could do better. We're happy to always listen to constructive criticism and make improvements. I think I'm done. You guys got anything you want to add before we move on?
No, I think that was
Okay.
pretty thorough.
I think so.
All right. Well, then this is Carl.
This is Justin.
This is Jody.
And until next time, we're coming to you from the Astronomicon, where you can be the hero of the Imperium.
And my Ooglehard is always puffy and round.
Oy vey. And with a good gesture, even you can be a hero.
We'll see you next
Beautiful.
time. This episode of The Independent Characters is protected by the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find information on the front page at theindependentcharacters.com.